Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to be here with all of you tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We've got a lot to talk about. Meant to talk about it this afternoon, but hey, I had to do something else. But now I've got the night is young, as they say. We can have a great chat here tonight. So, welcome, everybody. Let's do it.
American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, 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 everybody. So glad to be here with all of you tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. It is great to be back. I had a long trip where I accomplished a lot, but now I'm back with all of you. I told you all about some of it earlier today, but I've got plenty more to tell. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Now, the way these streams tend to work is I give my opening remarks, and my opening remarks are where I just tell you what's on my mind. But while the opening remarks are happening, super chats, rumble rants, Rockfin tips are coming in, and people are giving me stuff to talk about in the second half of the program. And they're coming in, and I'm taking note of them, and they're coming in. And then after the opening remarks, I do a roll call where I call you all out as I see you, names and locations, dare to win. And then after that, for the rest of the night, I answer your super chat, rumble rant, and Rockfin tip questions. So if there's something you would like me to answer, respond to, comment on, whatever, send me a Rockfin tip, a rumble rant, etc. I've got two in the kicker, two that came this afternoon that I didn't get a chance to answer. One from John McCarthy, the other from Battle Cossack. So those will be the first ones that I answer. I generally tend to answer the rumble rants first, and then the Rockfin tips, and then the super chats. So yeah, give me something to talk about in the second half of our show. Please, by all means, do that because the night is young, and I've got a lot to talk with you all about. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. So the first thing that I've got to talk to you all about, the very first thing I've got to talk to you about, very, very, very important, right? Before I get to any stuff related to my trip or anything, this riot that happened in a Muslim area of Russia, there was a riot of Muslims who were angry about what Israel is doing right now, about the murder of Palestinians. They stormed into an airport. And people are looking at this and they're saying it's horrendous. And it is. Lawless activity, the idea that they would target a group of people simply because of their national origin. I guess it was rumored that there was an Israeli plane or something like that. Reprehensible behavior. Not good. However, we now know why it happened. Now, mainstream U.S. media is telling us that it happened because Russians hate Jews, Russia's anti-Semitic, Russia's Nazi. Blah! That's what they're saying, and they're full of shit. I mean, no shocker, right? Mainstream media is full of shit. We now know that the reason that this event happened, for which a number of people had been arrested, the Russian government does not obviously tolerate people storming airports, just like over here. If a group of people stormed an airport, they'd get arrested. These people are being arrested. We now understand that it was the Muslims of a certain area were being psyched up to do it by a Telegram channel controlled by the Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian government, in the hopes of causing unrest and confusion in Russia, because they are at war with Russia, dispatched a Telegram app to stir up a very specific region to stir up the Muslims of a certain area to go and storm this airport. This was a social media psyop carried out by the Ukrainian government. And the Russian Foreign Ministry has come out. They have solid proof of this. This was a psychological operation carried out by the Ukrainian forces. And should we be shocked, right? That people are calling it a pogrom. Well, should we be shocked that a government that tears down World War II memorials might incite what looks like a quote-unquote pogrom? We shouldn't be shocked by that at all. This is a government that is full of Hitler admirers. The Ukrainian government that was installed in a coup in 2014 is an inherently anti-Russian government. It is a government that accepts the narrative of World War II where the Russians were the bad guys, not the Germans. They glorify a guy named Stepan Bandera, who was an actual Nazi collaborator. They have torchlit Nazi marches. So should we be shocked that a group of Hitler-admiring anti-Russian fanatics, in the hopes of hurting Russia's image and in the hopes of causing confusion in Russia, manipulated social media in order to stir up a group of Muslims to attack an airport? Should we be shocked that this happened? No. But we should be absolutely clear when mainstream media tries to tell us that this is proof that Russia hates Jews. It's proof of nothing of the kind. It's proof that Ukraine hates Jews. It's proof that the Ukrainian social media is effectively manipulative and that they engage in psychological operations in order to hurt Russia. That's what it's proof of. And anyone who points to this and says this is proof that Russia hates Jews, first of all, you have to remember that Muslims are a minority in Russia. Most Russians are Christians, right? And that this was among, a certain, Muslim population that received a huge amount of disinformation over social media. And apparently these people did engage in criminal activities, and they're being arrested for it by the Russian government. And anyone who looks at that event at the airport and says, well, this is proof that Russia hates Jews, that Russia wants to kill Jews or something, they're completely delusional. Completely delusional. First of all, that mob was angry at Israel, not at Jews. Let's be clear about that. Even though their actions were reprehensible, and still doesn't obscure the fact that they weren't targeting Jews, they were targeting Israel. They were targeting Israelis, people they thought to be associated with the Israeli government. And they were targeting them based on lies that they had been told by the Ukrainian government, through covert operations carried out by the Ukrainian government. So let's just be clear about that. I just want to clear that up because this is what mainstream media, they miss no opportunity to demonize Russia, to spread lies about Russia, to paint Russia in a negative light. They miss no opportunity to do that. And so, of course, they are using the recent events that happened to feed their narrative, to ignore the crimes of the U.S.-backed Nazi forces in Ukraine, who have already lost the war. The war is over pretty much. The Ukrainian military, with the money and weapons of the United States, are simply just throwing away their own people in order to keep the gravy train going. And that's been admitted by Seymour Hersh and others. The war in Ukraine is over. Russia won the war in Ukraine. It's over. Crimea is never going back. Donetsk, Lugansk are never going back. The war in Ukraine, their much-hailed counteroffensive did nothing, and it was a failure. Russia has won the war. The war is over. The war in Ukraine is over. And the fact that the Ukrainian government will not surrender, the fact that they just want more money, they just want more and more money to keep coming in, $100 billion that Joe Biden asked for, as they realize that there is no game plan for victory. There's no way they can pull this off. It's pretty shocking. And it really shows you that they have no concern about their own people. I mean, they just want to keep throwing away Ukrainian people's lives. They're picking Ukrainians off the street, drafting them and sending them off to die in a conflict that they know at this point they're not going to win. Right? I mean, it just shows you how cynical they are. While Zelensky and his cronies, they're sitting there collecting more and more of that money, fattening their own bank accounts. It's pretty sinister. Pretty sinister what the Ukrainian forces are doing at this point. So, the fact that they would incite a riot in Russia an anti-Semitic or I guess anti-Israel riot in Russia. Does that shock you? Does that shock anybody? No, doesn't shock anybody that this would happen. So I just wanted to get that out there. Now, as I was starting to tell you all, when I was on social media earlier today, I was interrupted. I had to cover the UN Security Council meeting. I was recently in Russia, and we're going to talk about my trip. A lot that we can talk about. But I was recently in Russia. But one thing that has to be clear is that before we get to that, the whole world is condemning, overwhelmingly condemning Israel and its crimes right now. It is a massive condemnation that is happening right now. The whole world is condemning Israel for bombing the Palestinians, for murdering the Palestinians. And the United States continues to block UN Security Council resolutions for a ceasefire. And the USA stands alone. And Israel stands alone. The whole world sees the horrific, evil things that Israel is doing and is demanding a ceasefire. Yes, they condemn what Hamas did October 7th. But the whole world sees what Israel is doing and condemns it. But yet, the United States continues to block resolutions that would restrain Israel. The situation is very, very dangerous. And, I mean, we are very, very close to World War III. Because already Iranian-aligned targets in Syria and in Lebanon have been struck by Israel. Israel is blaming Iran for the attacks, and this is a really, really serious and dangerous situation. But I got to say, the U.S. imperialists and the Israelis have picked the worst possible time for this move, because the world has never been more in support of Palestine. The world has never been more opposed to the United States. The Middle Eastern world is united. Under Obama, they were heavily divided, the Sunnis and the Shias and all of that. That's not the case anymore. Saudi Arabia and Iran are friendly now. I'm just telling you that right now, the United States is in the weak position. It is in the weak position at this moment. The Palestinians are getting global, massive support. Even though many European countries have outlawed pro-Palestine rallies, they're still happening by the thousands. People are risking arrest going out into the streets waving Palestinian flags in country after country after country. I'm telling you right now, at this moment, we have never seen, you're on the list, we have never seen a situation where Israel and its backers and the United States have been more isolated. And Putin, the Russian president, has been on fire lately, talking about how the Palestinian people need their own state and how not resolving the Palestinian question has let this situation get to where it is. I think we'll show you while we're here. I'll show you some of the recent comments that the Russian president has made. The Russian ambassador Nebenzia, he was at the UN pounding the podium, just laying it out there, explaining how at this time it is so obvious that all of the words we've heard from U.S. officials about how much they care about humanitarian life and civilian casualties, how much that's all just a bunch of bullshit. Just a bunch of bullshit. Just a bunch of bullshit, because they clearly don't care about Palestinians when they're blocking a ceasefire at this point. Israel got up at the UN, gave a speech comparing the recent events that took place to the Second World War in like the most outrageous analogies ever. I mean, it was pretty outrageous, comparing, their bombardment of Gaza to the fight against the Nazis in World War II. Just completely outrageous, but that's what they do. But anyway, I am going to I'm going to put on some of Putin's recent words. He's just been laying it all out there. Very powerful stuff. So yeah, we'll put Putin's recent words about what's been going on. I just spoke about that. I just spoke about that. Roll the stream backwards and you'll hear me talk about that for like 10 minutes, but that's okay. That's okay. I will answer it again during the Q&A. No problem. But anyway, this is recent statement from Putin. This is a recent statement from Putin. This is one of his recent statements. Again, he is just making it so abundantly clear why this happened. That's okay. That's okay. That's all right. We all get here when we get here. Okay, but yeah, let's put Putin's recent words on. Putin has had some pretty fire statements lately, and we'll just put them on. All right.
We'll still see that instead of punishing criminals and terrorists, unfortunately, they started to take revenge based on the principle of the collective responsibility of the horrible events that are now unfolding in the Gaza Strip, when hundreds of thousands of innocent people are being exterminated. People who have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide from the bombardments, from the shelling, cannot be justified. When you look at the children covered in blood, at the dead children, deceased children, when you look at how the elderly, women are suffering, how medical professionals are dying, of course, it makes you clench your fist and it makes you cry. I cannot put it in any other way.
Yeah. Putin is out there calling it out for what it is, and in the past, Russia has been very pro-Israel. There's been times where Putin has defended Israel's actions. Not this time. Not this time. What the Israelis are doing right now is indefensible. It is indefensible. And like I said, even many of countries that have long been, somewhat supportive of Israel are saying no. The United States stands alone at the UN Security Council defending Israel, preventing a ceasefire. The fact that the USA continues to block ceasefire resolutions at the UN Security Council, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. It is really unbelievable. Here's another comment from the Russian president.
Wants to build a fairer world for all the civilizations. We are not only one of the leaders of this subjective historical process, but I will tell you more. And everyone is aware of this. For our future, for the principles of the just world order, for the freedom of countries and nations, Russia is fighting for all of this on the battlefield. Russia is fighting consistently, losing our brothers in arms, losing our soldiers, our officers, our heroes. I will say that again, for the tragedies of the Palestinians, for the clashes in the Middle East, behind the conflict in Ukraine, behind all of this, behind many other conflicts in the world, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and Syria, and so on and so forth. Ruling elites of the United States and their satellites are standing behind all of this. It is obvious to everyone. They are the ones who are trying to deploy their military bases. They are using every occasion to use the military force. At all times, they are supplying weapons to the conflict zones. And they are supplying financial means, including to Ukraine and the Middle East. They are fanning the hatred in Ukraine and in the Middle East. And without having any accomplishments on the battlefields, they are trying to divide us from the inside.
Yeah, and he's right. The United States is, at this point, we have a Western capitalist system, Western capitalist imperialism, capitalism in its monopoly stage, that can only stay at the top of the world by sowing chaos. Because if the world continues to grow, they're going to lose their position. So they're trying to hold back growth. They're trying to spread instability and chaos so they can stay at the top of the world. But the rest of the world just wants to grow. The rest of the world wants to expand. The rest of the world wants to see unemployment and poverty and hunger eliminated. It wants to see technology advance. It wants to see the human population expand. the world is growing beyond the narrow restraints of the Western imperialist system. The Belt and Road Initiative, what's happening with the Eurasian Economic Union, what's happening with the Belt and Road Initiative and the Bolivarian alternative of Latin America. I've seen it with my own eyes. There is a whole new world in birth. And the Western imperialists, with their Israeli puppets, and they're trying to hold off this new world. Quickly, we'll put Putin's remarks about the recent events at the airport and how it was something that was very much staged by staged and the result of Ukrainian, propaganda. We have him talking about that. Let me just wait for the video to come up.
Surprise to me all the time how the Kiev regime and their masters from across the ocean, we know that they are treating Bandera and other Hitler's accomplices as heroes. We can see how the authorities of Ukraine applauding to the Nazis who participated personally in the crimes against Jews in Holocaust and now led by their Western patrons. They are trying to stir riots in Russia. And I'm not sure if in the United States, the ruling elites in the United States are aware of what's happening there. If they care so much about the Israeli nationals, maybe they should investigate into what their special services in Ukraine are doing as they are trying to stir riots, stir unrest in Russia.
Yeah. What he's referring to is what I talked about in the first 10 minutes of the show, which was that it's pretty clear now that this unrest that happened at the airport, it was very much staged. You're on the list, John. It was very much staged by the Ukrainian intelligence services. They set up a Telegram channel and they spread propaganda and they incited this horrendous event at the airport. And this was done by the Ukrainians. That they stirred up. And of course, Russia is enforcing the law. It's not legal to storm an airport. It's not legal to do that kind of thing. And so, yeah, the Ukrainian forces who the USA is backing incited a riot via social media in Russia. So there you go. So I just wanted to get all of that out of the way, talk about the role that Russia is playing in the world, how they're just standing up for the Palestinians. They're calling out the USA for the way that it's giving the Israelis a free pass. Just wanted to get all of that out of the way. So now, I was telling you all that I went to the Congress of the International Council of the World Youth Festival because I'm the chair of the American delegation to the World Festival of Youth and Students. We have, they did send me to Russia for the gathering, and I showed a couple of videos of the gathering. I'm going to show this other video. This is a video just kind of highlighting, some of the shots of what went on. So here's another video of the gathering for the planning of the World Youth Festival that I went to.
Мы настроены, заинтересованы, нацелены на создание на базе фестивального наследия международную молодежную сеть, которая продолжит свою деятельность по развитию человеческого потенциала, продвижению молодежной дипломатии, обеспечению участия молодежи в формировании будущего мира лучшего, чем нынешний.
Мы хотим, чтобы молодежь, в том числе из иностранных государств, приехала в Российскую Федерацию, приехала в Москву, приехала в другие города России и посмотрела, как живет страна, как она развивается, о чем думает молодежь Российской Федерации.
Очень много ливанских школьников выбирают продолжение образования в России. Соответственно, это уже приезжают ребята, которые говорят по-русски, знают русскую культуру, любят ее, любят Россию.
Jóvenes indígenas que realmente están realizando muchos esfuerzos de trabajos, pero que no han sido escuchados. Entonces, una de las expectativas es que en este festival se escuche esa voz, ese trabajo que está realizando cada joven desde sus pueblos y desde sus lenguas, su forma de pensar y sus cosmovisiones.
So what I had here in Russia, in Moscow 2018, this is a very large experience. What was helped me to do a lot of things in my life. Also give me many relations from all around the world. And I'm thinking about starting learn some Russian language.
Yeah. So it was quite an event I went to. 80 countries were represented. There's going to be 130 countries represented at the World Youth Festival. And at this point, registration is open. So if you want to go to the World Festival, you should apply. You should register. You can register. You can apply. You can apply here on the website. And applications are open until December 1st. So get your application in now if you want to go. Now, I'm the leader of the delegation. It'll be me and the other people of the National Preparatory Committee will ultimately be deciding who gets to go. But if you want to attend, the first thing to do would be apply. So I would encourage you. To apply to go to the festival. It is an amazing experience. I know there's quite a few applications already. It's a big event. It's going to be a big event. So anyway, Peter Coffin is busy editing together a video of everything that I did. I took a lot of different video when I was at the gathering. But one thing that I did is I spoke at the press conference that they had for the Russian media outlets. And I gave a speech as the head of the American delegation. And so I thought I would just show that speech here on the stream. It was in two parts. It was a panel, and I gave my opening, my introductory. And then after that, I gave, an answer to their question. And so I thought I would just show that here. Why not, right? Why not? So these are my remarks to Russian media that I gave at the official press conference announcing the festival.
Dear friends, I would like to welcome all of you at the final press conference. Moscow is hosting the Congress of the International Council. It brings together heads of national preparatory committees from across the world, ambassadors of the World Youth Festival 2024, heads of youth and children's organizations. The Congress brought together 120 youth leaders from over 90 countries, including representatives of the national preparatory committees from 70 countries. The result of this large-scale work is the outcome resolution adopted by the International Council. Today we're joined by Mr. Denis Ashirov, Deputy Head of the Federal Agency for Youth Affairs, coordinator for preparing the World Youth Festival 2024. Also, we're joined by representatives of the International Council of the World Youth Festival from various countries, head of the National Preparatory Committee of the festival in the United States, Caleb Mopin. I would like to ask our foreign guests, all of you have come from faraway countries. What opportunities did this Congress give you, and what have you managed to discuss over these 2 days? What are the takeaways from these meetings? How are you going to use the knowledge and experience gained here in our future work? We will take turns speaking one by one. Caleb, you have the floor.
I really like every opportunity that I have to come to this part of the world, because what I hear at these international gatherings is optimism, hope, and that's what young people need urgently in these times. Because unfortunately, the rich and the powerful forces that govern this world have given a lot of people one of these, and out of these, they have pushed a lot of self-doubt and a lot of hopelessness and a lot of pessimism, along with a lot of lies in order to sell wars. But when I come to this part of the world, I see optimism. I see belief that you can solve problems with jobs rather than bombs and drones. And I see the idea that if countries come together and begin to trade with one another, we can see a road to peace. And I must say that, I'm coming as an American. The Center for Political Innovation is our organization. We'll also be coming with the American Student Union and other organizations. But I think that everything we hear at these festivals this is what America used to stand for. America used to present itself as a land of opportunity and hope and growth. But we have leaders in America that have given up on America's ideals. We have leaders who are not true to the principles of Lincoln and Roosevelt and so many of the leaders who have come before. And, you know, I think about the young people in the United States who see Joe Biden ask for $100 billion for Israel and for Ukraine, while they're literally unpaving the roads throughout the United States, pulverizing the asphalt, replacing paved roads with dirt roads. And I gotta say, coming here and doing what our leaders should be doing and offering a hand of friendship to Russia and the people of the world, we are the real patriots. We are the real inheritors of America's legacy, and that we have a government that is loyal not to the American people, but to an international financial system, a system that is decaying, and the new world that's rising is rising with the BRICS. And so I'm really glad to be able to participate in these forums. And I feel like the founders of our country would be very proud to see the young people that we're bringing.
Спасибо. Дорогой Калиб, спасибо тебе.
Despite the political situation, so you have noticed that we have different youth organizations, representatives from Europe and Western countries. They also have NPCs in their countries. And I would like to ask the chair of such committees in the United States and Italy, and to get this information from first hand, so to speak. So what is the situation with youth in your countries? What is their attitude to Russia? Caleb, perhaps you are the first to speak.
We're drowning in disinformation in the Western world. I mean, there's no question about that. And the image that people are presented of this country is a false one and is an utterly deceptive one. And there's just no way around that. However, I will say that the people in the Western countries, in particular the young people, are more cynical and distrustful of the people delivering this message than they have been in quite some time, because they're living in a society that is crumbling as a result of the decisions of these very leaders that are telling them to hate Russia. And so that presents an opening. And that's why they're so determined to keep RT off YouTube and to silence different voices and different critics. That's why they're so determined to do it, because there's more of an audience for a message that is critical of their decaying system than ever before. I do want to say this, though. We are quite concerned about the U.S. government retaliating against us for attending the festival. There's a case in the United States now of 3 leaders of something called the African People's Socialist Party, or the Yuru movement, who've been indicted by the federal government as Russian agents because they attended a conference in Russia 3 or 4 years ago, and they were doing some activism on behalf of the black community, and now they are facing 10 years in prison for allegedly being Russian agents. And we have been doing everything we can to raise awareness about this case, because it is showing that they could retaliate against people just for coming to conferences or just for speaking up and opposing it. And so we are prepared for that. We are preparing, we are speaking with the UN mission of Russia about having a press conference with attorneys prior to our departure in March or in February, and making clear that our travel and our participation in these events is in full compliance with U.S. law. We will not be breaking the U.S. law in any conceivable way, and that it's completely legal to do what Joe Biden should be doing, and reaching out to the people of Russia and reaching out to the people of the world, and not building walls and not putting up sanctions and not isolating people. And I also want to just say this. Youth festivals are very, very important to my organization in particular, the Center for Political Innovation. Every meeting that we have begins with the pledge that was created in 1947 when the World Democratic Youth Federation was formed. Every Zoom call that we do, every conference, we begin with the pledge. We've changed the word youth for people because we have people of all ages, but we begin, we raise our right hands, we pledge that we shall remember this unity forged at the end of the Second World War, not only today, not only this year, this week, but always, and the pledge goes on. But that is such a beautiful pledge that came out of the World Democratic Youth Federation. And I must say that the youth festivals represent the best, not just of this country, but of America. A time when we stood in solidarity with Russia to defeat fascism. And they're trying to erase that from American history. And they also want to erase the fact that Russia came to the aid of Abraham Lincoln and stood with Lincoln in our effort to defeat slavery. Russia supported us in the American Revolution. The American people and the Russian people have a deep bond. But they're trying to cover that up because our leaders are not loyal to the United States. They're loyal to a decaying financial system. And so we have a lot of work to do, I guess, in educating the American people. But we're going to come to this festival. They won't be intimidating us out of doing it. We expect there may be knocks on people's doors from the FBI, et cetera, to try and intimidate people from coming. Our members are being trained about what to do if the FBI comes to their house, if they, their family members face intimidation. Because with younger people, college students and others, they'll want to participate in something, but their parents may get nervous, and so we're preparing our members for this kind of harassment. We're coming to Sochi, and no one's going to hold us back. And we're proud of what we're doing. We are the real American patriots. We are fully in compliance with U.S. law, so don't try and stop us. There you go.
Спасибо большое.
Those were my remarks to the press conference about the World Festival. And we mean every word of it, right? We do expect that they will try to intimidate people out of attending. There will be people attending the festival who will get a knock on their door from the FBI. People's parents will be told that their child is going to go to Russia and it's going to be dangerous and Putin might kidnap them, blah, 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 blah. And it'll all be lies. We are ready for that. We are ready for that. We are absolutely ready for that. And we should be aware of what they did to the Yuru movement and how they accused the Yuru movement of being Russian agents just because they went to a festival or an event, a conference in Russia, right? And that's why we need to be doing everything we can to support the African People's Socialist Party and support the Yuru movement. That's why John, mentioned they're having a national march this coming weekend, and I hope that people can be there, right? I hope that people can be there. I really do, to support them. We got to do everything we can. I'm really glad that members of our organization have stepped up to the plate to support the Yuru movement. I'm really, really glad to hear that they have done that. So if you want to go to the festival, you can apply. There's a website. There's a way to register. You have to be under 35 in order to attend. That is the rule, my understanding. But go ahead and register. And the National Preparatory Committee that is made up of the Party of Communists, the American Student Union, and the Center for Political Innovation. Those are the three organizations that make up the National Preparatory Committee. We will have the task. I didn't see that, but very important. We will have the task of supporting the festival and facilitating the attendance by the American delegation. And I'm very honored to have taken on this role. It's going to happen. And it's really, really great. So keep your eyes out for the video that Peter Coffin will be editing together of everything that went on at the Congress I was just at. Really, really amazing, excellent stuff. I'm really, really glad to be back. But right now, between now and December 2nd, everything I do is going to be focused on making our conference in Portland a success. I have never taken on such a big endeavor, and neither has Elizabeth, our president, neither has anyone in our group. We have never organized an event as big as the event that we are organizing right now. This event in Portland, Oregon is going to be huge. It looks like, oh, you just got Scott Ritter, Joe T. Brar, Garland Nixon. No. That's just the tip of the iceberg. A great Iranian-American speaker who is an ally of the Palestinians, who's an anti-imperialist, a Shia Muslim. Looks like he's going to be coming. We'll be announcing that shortly. It looks like Lee Stranahan from Sputnik Radio, great radio commentator, longtime anti-war voice, libertarian. Looks like Lee Stranahan is going to be coming. It looks like, in addition to that, Rainer Shea, great commentator, he's going to be coming. Looks like Chris Lully, leader of the Party of Communists, he is coming. I mean, it is happening. This conference that we are doing in Portland, Oregon, in which we will be promoting and explaining and building the World Youth Festival, among many other things, this is going to be a shindig. This is going to be a huge event. It is going to be massive. The room holds 250, and we are going to fill that room. And it is already turning into something. People are registering on the website. People are donating to help us do it. We're going to have buses to bring people in from Seattle. We're going to have buses to bring people in from Northern California. We're going to have transportation for people in the area to help bring them. It is going to be something else. And cheers to Elizabeth Young, our president, who is working so hard to make sure that it is what it is. I mean, my goodness, every day it gets bigger. David Rovics is playing his music. We understand. That's going to be great. We're going to have speakers who highlight the Yuru movement. We're going to have speakers who talk about the local anti-war activism. Lee Stranahan is going to be there. He is absolutely going to be there, and we're honored to have him there. Garland Nixon is going to be there. Jyoti Brar. I mean, I don't have any Halloween plans except to stream for all of you. I'm going to be streaming for all of you tomorrow, probably at noon and night. But I'll answer that later, Gabby. And shout out to everyone who's going to be there. We've got a whole week of events. The night before, there's going to be a World Anti-Imperialist Platform event where Jyoti Brar will give a very long talk about communism and anti-imperialism. Very dynamic. That's going to be amazing. The next day, wow. The next day, not everyone in CPI is religious. There are many different religions in the Center for Political Innovation. We respect people's religious freedom, and we also believe, no religious test, right? That's what our founders said in the Constitution. No religious test, meaning that, that your religious views have no role in any organization, right? You can join CPI. There's no religious test for membership. Doesn't matter what your religious views are. We are not a religious organization. However, there are many members of CPI who are Christians. And for those members, December 3rd, we are going to be we're having a special event December 3rd to launch our Christian wing. The Christian wing of the Center for Political Innovation will be launching with City Builder Ministries. We're having this event December 3rd. They'll be the day after the conference. You Are the Light of the World, a presentation by City Builder Ministries, December 3rd, 2023. And it's going to be great. It's going to be really, really great. It's going to be really, really great. It's going to be spectacular. It's going to be really, really great. So that's on December 3rd. And then, right, the following weekend, if you're still in the area and you want to learn what CPI is all about, we're having a 3-day weekend workshop, Roadmap for America for new members. We're going to have a rally in support of the Yuru movement. We're going to have like a pop-up demonstration to support the Yuru movement. Hands off Yuru. We're going to have a public speaking workshop to train people in the art of public speaking. That's going to be very, very cool. We're going to be doing that. We have so much planned. You really don't want to miss what we're planning in Portland. I am going to be in Portland, from the end of November all the way up until like December 12th. I'm going to be in Portland on the ground organizing people, and we are going to hit Portland like a ton of bricks. I'll just tell you that much. We are going to do our best. We are going to do our best to we are going to do our best to have the event in Portland be a moment that our organization really grows and expands. And it really just, starts engaging in real activity and starts changing the world. And that is what we're going to do. It's very, very exciting. So I would really like it if you could attend. We'd really, really love to have you. Be there, be in the auditorium, ask a good question during the Q&A, engage with our speakers, come hang out with us beforehand or afterwards. We'd love to have you. So if you're planning to attend, please sign up on the Eventbrite. Go ahead and register for the event. Please do that. Here's the registration link. It's also down below. Register for the event on Eventbrite. And on top of that, if you can help us do the event, if you can help sponsor the event, because it's going to cost a lot to bring in all the volunteers from out of town, to fly in speakers, and, you know, the costs are adding up and we're getting a little nervous, but we're going to do it. You know, if you can help sponsor the event, if you'd like to support the conference, if you want to support us electronically, you can do it this way as well. So we've been raising money on Give, Send, Go. So we've got that as well. So at this point, you know, yeah, please be in touch. It's going to be a great event kicking off December. Yeah, and I'm excited. Look, the global anti-imperialist movement is marching forward. Every time I go to Russia, I go to these anti-imperialist conferences, I meet, you know, I got to tell you, I met so many amazing people. I met leaders of the Ho Chi Minh Communist Youth Union of Vietnam. Shout out to them if they're watching. Great people. I met people from the Venezuelan, you know, Robert Serra Foundation. In fact, I will show you Robert Serra. I don't know if people know who Robert Serra was, but in case you don't know the name, Robert Serra was the young rising star of the Bolivarian socialist government of Venezuela. He was just a very well-known leader he was an elected official, and he was a young man who was very charismatic, a leader of Bolivarian socialism. And, you know, the right wing, the U.S.-backed opposition in Venezuela didn't particularly like him because he was popular and he was a good speaker and a good writer, and he was, you know, elected, and he was rallying young people in Venezuela to defend the revolution, etc. So what did they do? They stabbed him to death. Robert Serra was murdered by, you know, people from Colombia that were sent into Venezuela, with the backing of the United States, and they murdered this heroic leader of Bolivarian socialism in Venezuela. Well, many of the youth of Venezuela are obviously very, very disgusted by the fact that this great hero of their revolution was killed, Robert Serra. And so the communist youth of Venezuela, one of the organizations they founded is the Robert Serra Memorial Foundation that they've set up in order to commemorate him. And they were there, and I was so honored. This is the woman who is the leader of the Robert Serra Memorial Foundation of Venezuela. And she gave me, on the last night, she gave me a T-shirt honoring Robert Serra. That's Robert Serra, the Bolivarian leader who was killed. That's the woman who is the leader of the Robert Serra Memorial Foundation. And they gave me this beautiful T-shirt in honor of Robert Serra. And I was very moved. Robert Serra was a great hero of Bolivarian socialism who was murdered by the U.S. imperialists and their running dogs and their allies. And this was great, a great honor to be given that by a leader. There was also a leader of the PSUV, the PSUV, the United Socialist Party of Venezuela Youth. She was there as well. There were a number of communist groups from around the world that attended this gathering. You know, a number of them, and the Union of Young Communists of Cuba was there. I had a great chat with the woman. It was a black woman who is the leader of she's the head of the Union of Young Communists of Cuba. And we had a great chat. I gave her a copy of one of my books. We exchanged information, and that was really, really great. I mean, there's just so many people. You know, there's a young guy who used to be the head of the Young Communist League of Brazil. He now lives in Russia. His name's Henrique. And Henrique is great. I've known him. He's been at previous, you know, events I've been to in Russia. That's really, really great. And he's awesome. And yeah, I mean, so many, young people from Uruguay, young people from Argentina were there. It's really, really amazing what is happening. There is a whole movement of people around the world that are rejecting U.S. imperialism. There's a new economy centered around the BRICS that is rising. And every time I go over there, I come back rejuvenated and full of energy because I'm just so excited. Because over there, they still believe in growth, right? They believe in growth. They believe in economic development. They believe that you don't solve problems with bombs and drones and prisons. You solve problems with jobs and railway and nuclear power and healthcare and education. And, they believe in humanity in that part of the world. They're rejecting Western imperialism. They're rejecting the global system of monopoly capitalism that is grinding countries into poverty. And, so many African countries were represented. My goodness, so many leaders of Nigeria, leaders of Gabon, leaders of, wow. I mean, just many, many African countries. I met with their leaders, and there's whole big think tanks in Russia dedicated to the future of Africa. Had many great conversations. There was a guy from Mongolia I spent a lot of time with, and he and I had many great conversations. I learned all about, I knew nothing about Mongolia. He taught me all about the Mongolian steppe, about some of the traditions that they have there, about the rural peoples of Mongolia and how they live, their history, and I mean, that was really, really, really special to talk to somebody from Mongolia about their history and their traditions. That was really, really great. There's a young guy who's a leader of the Mexican delegation, right? Really, really brilliant guy, Juan Antonio. Met him. He's great. There's going to be a big delegation of young people from Mexico that are going to the festival, right? There's a great guy who runs the Irish Friends of Russia on Twitter. That guy, he was there. He's a really great guy. There was people from Germany. There was people from France. There's a woman who runs education, about Russia and Russian history and Russian culture in France. There was a guy from Greece who plays a similar role. There's Italians, a group of Italians who work very, very hard to defend Russia and build anti-imperialism among the people of Italy. Anti-imperialist Italians that were there. It was so amazing. It was so amazing. All the people that were there. There's a woman who is Russian and Chinese, and she is the head of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization scholarship program. She was there. Man, I couldn't name everyone who was there. There were so many people there. And it was all free Palestine. That was said over and over and over again. Free Palestine was the rallying cry of the festival. Practically everyone was condemning Israel and what Israel was doing. And I mean, this is the future, right? This what I'm describing to you all here, this is the future. This is the new economy that's emerging. This is the future of the world. And the U.S. imperialists, their world is dying, and this is the new world that is rising. And I don't know what more to say about it. I can show you a couple more clips. I don't want to jump the gun, though. Peter Coffin is making an amazing video, and I don't want to jump the gun on that, right? I don't want to steal the thunder of this amazing video. Peter Coffin is very, very skilled with the video, that he's, that he does. So I don't want to jump the gun on that, but I guess I'll show you one more clip. This was at the end of the first day. We were all getting together and posing for pictures, and you got to see the young people from so many different countries, Middle Eastern countries, African countries, South America, Brazil. I mean, it was so many different countries. So I'm just going to show you. I'll show you the video from that. Right? If I can find that, I'll show you the video from that if I can. Right? If I can get it to download here. Right? Did it download? Oh, goodness gracious. Trying to get the video to download here. But I'll show you the video of just when we were all getting our pictures taken. That was pretty neat. So I'll see if I can do that. Right? See if I can show you that video. But so many things happened. I mean, you'll see a lot of it in the video. I mean, this just goes to show you that if you end up going to the actual festival, it is really an experience. It is really an experience because, I couldn't even tell you everything that went on at the festival. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, so much happened. you know, when you go to these events, there's just so much that goes on, and, you know, so many things. We went to museums. They're building new fancy museums in Russia about the history of their nuclear power programs, about the precious gems that they have in Russia and how that they're used. I mean, Russia is open for business. They tell you that Russia's isolated. Oh, Russia's completely isolated. Bullshit. Russia's economy is moving right along. They're building a fancy new museum all about nuclear power and nuclear energy. They took it to us. I put on a hard hat at one point because we were going around parts of the museum where they're still doing construction. So for our safety, we had to wear hard hats. But they're like building a whole new museum in Russia right now. You would not believe it. You wouldn't believe it. Anyone who's trying to tell you Russia's isolated or Russia, you know, Russia, they don't know what they're talking about. Let me just be blunt with you. They really, really don't know what they're talking about. They really have no clue what they're talking about. If they tell you that Russia's isolated or that Russia's economy is falling apart, that's not true. That is not true in any conceivable way. They have no idea what they're talking about if they tell you that. Because Russia is growing like you wouldn't believe. Russia is rising. So, yeah, I'm just waiting for this video that I'd like to show you all to pop up so I can put it on the screen. And you can see when we were all of us there, all from so many different countries, but all with the same vision, the same hope and optimism, the same belief in economic growth and development. You know, there's one young woman from Honduras who was there. She was awesome. There was a guy from Mauritania, right? That's a country we don't hear a lot about, Mauritania, right? There are people from Libya, people from Tunisia that were there. I mean, my goodness, I could just keep going on and telling you different people that were there. I mean, it was really something special. Let me get this video for you all. Here we go.
Let's together to say, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! За Россию! Слава Россия! Все тоже за Россию! За Путина! За Путина! World Festival! World Festival!
All right. Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I was for the last week, comrades. I'm glad to be back because this is my homeland. And many times people ask me at the festival, hey, Caleb, do you ever think you might want to leave the United States, might want to become an expat, move to some other country? And I told all the people there who asked me that. People ask me that a lot. People ask me that over here too. I always tell them, no, I don't want to live anywhere else. I'm an American. I love my country. I'm an American deep down in my soul. But I believe to be pro-American is to be pro-Russian. To be pro-American is to be pro-Chinese. To be pro-American is to be pro-Korean. To be pro-American is to be pro-Cuban. To be pro-American is to be pro-Venezuelan. To be pro-American is to be pro-Palestine and pro-Iran. That the future of America, the real future of America, is in arm in arm with the people of the world against imperialism, against the big banks and corporations that claim to speak for America, but are leading America into poverty, that are filling our schools up with opioids and drugs, that are filling the next generation of young people up with hopelessness, that are building prisons while they tear down schools, that are unpaving the roads, that are impoverishing people, that have sold America down the river to big banks and ultra monopolies, that are setting up a low-wage police state while they prep us for World War III and all-out vicious battle to defend their system. I believe the future of America is beyond imperialism. I believe the future of America is part of this new emerging economy, right? That is the only possible future for this country. Socialism or barbarism, as Rosa Luxemburg famously said. Socialism or barbarism. And that this Western capitalist system is dying and there's a whole new world that's arising, and we can either join with that world and be part of it and use our skill and our potential and our contributions to help join arm in arm and build the new world, or we can die along with this system. Well, I don't want to die. I want to live, and America wants to live, and America can only live if it joins with the new emerging economy. And that's just how it's going to be. That's just the truth. So, that's the way I see it. I don't want to expatriate. I don't want to move to another country. I want to save America from the nightmare of capitalism and imperialism. And I want America to join the new economy that's arising around the world that is largely socialistic. It's largely socialistic. So that is my perspective. That is the way I see things. And so before we do our Q&A, I'm going to put on some music. What the heck, right? I see people have already got a number of questions for me to answer. I am going to put on some music. I'm going to put some music on. So keep the super chats rolling in. Give me something to talk about in the second half of our program, please. Rumble rants, Rockfin tips, whatever platform you're watching on. But, so there's two songs. Let me just tell the story. There's two songs that kind of got combined, and it's kind of a weird CPI story. But, there's a famous English folk singer named Ewan McCool. And Ewan McCool was a communist, and he was a very dedicated communist. He wrote the Ballad of Ho Chi Minh, which is a great song. And he also wrote the Ballad of Joe Stalin. However, for a long time, no one knew what the tune of the Ballad of Joe Stalin was, because there was no recording of it anywhere on the internet that you could find. It's not one of his most well-known songs. Stalin is obviously very controversial, but the lyrics were on the internet. And so there were many people who tried to sing the Ballad of Joe Stalin to different lyrics. Anyway, now the Ballad of Joe Stalin is on the internet. So this is the actual tune. This is how the Ballad of Joe Stalin goes. This is Ewan McCool's Ballad of Joe Stalin.
Oh, Stalin was a mighty man, and a mighty man was he. He led the Soviet people on the road to victory. All through the revolution, he fought at Lenin's side, and they made a combination till the day that Lenin died. He said, come all you people, we must work with brain and hand. And then one day the Nazis came into the Soviet land. They plundered to the Volga, to Stalingrad. And then Joe Stalin said, come on, me boys, and kicked them out again. Oh, Stalin was a southerner, in Georgia he was born, where the oranges grow thick and fast and fields of waving corn. And Stalin is a farmer, his fingers they are green, and he has planted the biggest crop the world has ever seen. One day he looked upon the map and frowned and shook his head. There's too much brown and not enough green, these were the words he said. We'll have to change the weather, boys, he said, and then he smiled. So let's begin by planting trees along 3,000 miles. So Stalin rolled his sleeves up then and said it's time to start. The Volga River and the Don, they are too far apart. I think we'd better join them, so come and help me, pal, and we'll build a mighty waterway, the Volga-Don Canal. Then Stalin went into the north, and there saw rivers three, all emptying their waters into the polar sea. Now that's not right, Joe Stalin said, these rivers, they are ours. We'll turn them round and make them work and make electric power. There was a range of mountains that were standing in the way, so Stalin put his hand out and smoothed them all away. For Joe, he is determined to make the land all green, and that's the biggest project that the world has ever seen. Oh, Stalin is a mighty man, and he has a mighty plan. He's harnessed nature to the plow to work for the good of man. He's hammered out the future, the fortunate he has been, and he's made the workers' state the best the world has ever seen.
Now, I like that song. And the reason that I like that song, I like the lyrics to that song, is because it's celebrating the fact that Stalin industrialized and mobilized to build, right? It's about, power plants. It's about greening the land, making the land more fertile. It's about digging canals. It's, that's what it's about, right? It's about it's about economic development, right? It's celebrating the fact that Stalin made Russia a modern industrial country, right? But anyway, back to the story. So I've always liked those lyrics because they celebrate that Stalin was a builder. Stalin was a city builder. That song's all about Stalin. Stalin, what is it? Stalin looked upon the map and frowned and shook his head. There's too much brown. There's not enough green. Those were the words he said. There was a range of mountains that was standing in the way. So Stalin put his hands out and it smoothed them all away. Right. Those rivers, they are ours. So we're going to turn them around to build electric power. It's all about Stalin building, right? That Stalin was a city builder. He was an industrializer. That's what the song is about. But anyway, for a long time, we didn't know what the tune of the song was, right? There was a guy on the internet, a Russian guy who sang it, and he wrote his version of it, but he admitted in his tune that it wasn't the actual tune. So I called up my friend Paul, and I said to my friend Paul, we're going to have this great gathering. It was actually the first in-person meetup of the Center for Political Innovation that we ever had, the Saxton weekend in Saxton, Pennsylvania. And I called him up and I said, I'd like you to sing the Ballad of Joe Stalin. And he said, okay, but I have to find a tune. So he looked at the lyrics to the Ballad of Joe Stalin, and he said that they fit perfectly this other song by Woody Guthrie, right? Which is called The Biggest Thing That Man Has Ever Done, which I'm going to put that on next, right? And it's actually kind of a similar song. It's about historical progress. It's about humanity building things. It's a Woody Guthrie song. So Paul saw the lyrics to the song about Stalin, and then he thought of this Woody Guthrie song. So this is the Woody Guthrie song. The Woody Guthrie song that Paul thought of. And eventually he rewrote the lyrics, or he redid the Stalin song to be, the biggest thing that man has ever done. But this is the Woody Guthrie song, The Biggest Thing That Man Has Ever Done.
I'm just a lonesome traveler, a great historical bum. Highly educated, from history I have come. I built the Rock of Ages, that was in the year of 1. And that's about the biggest thing that man has ever done. I worked in the Garden of Eden, that was in the year of 2. Joined the Apple Pickers Union, though the members they was few. I'm the man that made the contract to raise the rising sun. And that's about the biggest thing that man has ever done. I was straw boss on the pyramids and the Tower of Babel too. I opened up the Red Sea to let the children through. I fought 1,000,000 battles and I never lost a one. And that's about the biggest thing that man has ever done. I beat the daring Roman and I beat the terrible Turk. I conquered Nero's army with about 30 minutes of work. I fought the kings of Egypt, I beat them every one. And that's about the biggest thing that man has ever done. I was in the revolution that set this country free. Me and a couple of Indians, we dumped the Boston Tea. We won the Battle of Bunker Hill and the Battle of Bull Run. And that's about the biggest thing that man has ever done. There was a man across the ocean, I guess you know him well. His name was Adolf Hitler, he is roasting now in hell. I kicked him in the panzers, I put him on the run. And that's about the biggest thing that man has ever done. Well, I better quit my singing now, 'cause I told you all I know. Please remember, partner, wherever you may go, we're gonna build a peaceful world when that job is done. Why, that'll be the biggest thing that man has ever done.
So that's the Woody Guthrie song, The Biggest Thing That Man Has Ever Done. So Paul, who is a folk musician, who's in the Center for Political Innovation, right? He had the idea to put the lyrics to the Ballad of Joe Stalin to the tune of The Biggest Thing That Man Has Ever Done. And he performed it at the Saxton Lectures. So this is the unique CPI melding of the Ballad of Joe Stalin by Ewan McCool, the lyrics, and The Greatest Thing That Man Has Ever Done, the tune by Woody Guthrie. This is a unique CPI
Joe Stalin was a mighty man was he. He led the Soviet people on the road to victory. All through the revolution he fought at Lenin's side. They made the combination till the day that Lenin died. He said, come all you people, we'll work with brain and hand. And then one day the Nazis came into the Soviet land. They plundered to the Volga, to Stalingrad, and then Joe Stalin said, come on me boys, he kicked them out again. Joe Stalin was a southerner, in Georgia he was born, where the oranges grow thick and fast in fields of waving corn. And Joe, he was a farmer, his fingers they were green, and he had planned out the biggest crop the world has ever seen. One day he looked upon his map and frowned and shook his head. There's too much brown, we need more green, these were the words he said. We'll have to change the weather, boys, he said, and then he smiled. So let's begin by planting trees along 3,000 miles. Joe Stalin rolled his sleeves up and he said, come on, let's start. The Volga River and the Don, they are too far apart. I think we'd better join them, so come on, help me, pal. We'll build a mighty waterway, the Volga-Don Canal. One day he looked into the north and saw the rivers three, all emptying their waters into the polar sea. No, that's not right, Joe Stalin said, those rivers, they are ours. We'll turn them round and make them work to give electric power. There was a range of mountains that was standing in the way, so Stalin put his hand out and he smoothed them all away. For Joe, he was determined to make the land all green, and that was the biggest project that the world had ever seen. Joe Stalin was a mighty man, he made a mighty plan. He harnessed nature to the plow to work for good of man. He's hammered out the future, the forgeman he has been, and made the worker state the best the world has ever seen. He has made the worker state the best the world has ever seen. Woo! Thank you, thank you.
So that, folks, is a unique CPI creation. The merging of Woody Guthrie's The Greatest Thing That Man Has Ever Done and Ewan McCool's Ballad of Joe Stalin into a unique Center for Political Innovation. That's what we do at CPI. We innovate. We are the Center for Political Innovation. And I hope that there are many more great innovations like it in the future. So on that note, folks, names and locations. I will call you out as I see you. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Who is with us? Who is with us tonight? Who is with us? Names and locations. Who is with us? All right. Seasoned Noob in China is with us. Welcome, Seasoned Noob. All right. And we got Rice from Adelaide, Australia. We got Lionel from Melbourne, Australia. We got Judy and David, our dog Little Bear in Nevada City. Very, very good. Oh. Matches is saying hello. She waved a world. Show the flag again, darling. Put the flag on the screen so people can see what it is. All right. This is my wife, Matches. This is the flag of the World Youth Festival.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, we've got a lot of these flags here, don't we? Right? Yeah, we do. So that was, you want to say hi on the stream? No, she doesn't want to say hi. That's my wife, Matches. She gave us a little World Youth Festival flag. She's laughing. That's okay. We love you. Aw. Hey, Matches, says Jenny. Chris in Salt Lake City, San Diego County, Johnny Bravo. Very good. Ryan in Kansas City is with us. Very, very good. Yes, Matches is sweet. I love my darling wife. Welcome back, says Tyler. Welcome back to you, Tyler. Tyler's doing great stuff on his YouTube. He's great. Mexico City, Saviero, Jenny Lynn in Cincinnati, David Rennie in Hamilton, Ontario, Jamie in St. Paul, San Bernardino, California, Mark Thompson, welcome, welcome, welcome. Colin in Greensboro, Kay in New Orleans, Alex from Brazil, Bob Troy in New York, Josh in St. Louis, very Briggy from Pennsylvania, we're a Better America in Michigan, Colin in Greensboro, welcome, welcome, welcome. Briggy in Pennsylvania, how are you doing, Briggy? Briggy's back. We love Briggy. She's great. Very, very good. Anyone on the Rockfin? No. Anyone on the Rumble? No one on the Rumble. All right. Just names and locations, folks. Names and locations. Mariah in North Carolina says hello. Hello back to you, Mariah. Hello, hello. Tampa, Florida. Herb Bryant is with us. Welcome, Herb. Good to have you. Good to have you. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Folks, I am so sorry that I had to cut off this morning's stream. It just happened. I was notified while streaming that I needed to cover the UN meeting. It was an important meeting to cover. Talked about Palestine, etc. But I'm back now. Balthazar in Oakland is with us. So Dionysus is in Greece. So I wanted today, since I'm back, and since I had to cut off the earliest stream, I did agree that I would show the first super chat that I got this afternoon. Right, there were two super chats from this afternoon. The first one was from John McCarthy, and it was Marianne Williamson's video that she made about the crisis in Gaza. So I am gonna. It was super chatted to me that I should, make a point of showing this video on my on the stream and kind of reacting to it. That was the idea. So I just need to find it here, but I think John posted it in one of the groups I'm in. Right? Right? So there we go. Right. So there we go. So I'm going to pull up John's video of Marianne Williamson. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Very good. Very good. Found it. And I am going to put it on the screen. Marianne Williamson's video about the crisis in Gaza, and we'll just react to it. That was the request, the super chat from John McCarthy. So we're now, if you're watching, John, I hope you're there. If you're watching, I am reacting to your super chat. I'm going to put Marianne Williamson on the screen here. So we're just downloading the video. And we're putting it on the desktop, and we will react to that. And if anyone has anything else they want me to talk about, I see Gonzalo is with us. All right. If anyone has anything else they want me to talk about. So this is our first super chat from this afternoon, reacting to the Marianne Williamson video. Just waiting for it to show up on the desktop. All righty. As soon as it uploads, then we can react to the video. Just waiting for. Oh, here we go. All right.
On Palestine tonight, and I want specifically for you to know how I analyze the situation and what I would do about it as President of the United States. We're walking into the jaws of hell here. Not only is there the issue of Gaza itself, Hezbollah is being active up north, and Iran is speaking overtly in a more menacing way than we've even heard them do before. This could turn into more than a...
menacing? I mean, I believe Iran is saying it's going to defend the Palestinians. Israel is bombing and killing Palestinians around the clock. Hezbollah is saying it wants to defend them. Iran is saying it wants to back up Hezbollah in doing so. So how is Iran menacing, right? Israel is menacing Palestinians. It's killed thousands and thousands of them, at least 12 an hour, probably more than that. So how is Iran menacing?
regional war. This could turn into a global catastrophe. The United States should take a leadership role here. However, the United States taking a leadership role should not look the way it does now. Were I President of the United States, I assure you, I'd let the right people know that I have no trust in the leadership of Bibi Netanyahu. As far as I'm concerned, his ideas are what, in large part, got us into this mess. And I do not trust that the way he sees this, his militaristic, bombastic, smug, and arrogant idea about what should happen now, this is not the path that I would join with in partnership.
Well, that's something.
Rather, I would begin making calls to world leaders, particularly Arab leaders, but others as well. There needs to be a multipolar response here. This is the thing. No matter what happens, even in what some would be seeing as the best thing, the only solution here is a two-state solution. Those who are talking about one state, either from the right or from the left, the last thing you need is a one-state solution here. If anything is a prescription for a bloody civil war, it's...
Well, I mean, an actual one-state solution would be a state coming into existence that recognized equal rights of all citizens there. And that would include the Palestinians as well as the Israelis. You know, and in theory, that would be a good thing. But, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But I don't think it's a recipe for civil war. I mean, if it could actually happen, it would be a very peaceful solution. But, you know, it's unlikely to happen.
One state. This is like the worst marriage you could consider possible, living in the same house. No, 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 no. Israel does have an inherent right to exist. Thank you. And
well, I don't agree with that. But at the same time, we do need to talk about what's possible, right? Not what's morally right? If we want to solve this problem, we need to talk about what's actually possible. And yes, the idea of one state where Israelis and Palestinians are equal with each other is very, very, very unlikely. And so, you know, I can understand from a pragmatic perspective, but at the same time, I don't think that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state where people that are not part of it don't have the same rights, and where the Palestinians live under occupation. I don't feel that is something that has the right to, you know, to exist. But at the same time, I recognize that there needs to be a solution here, not just me grandstanding about what's right and wrong. So I can kind of sympathize with her on that sense, but there you go.
So does a Palestinian state, and they should both exist. So these are the two choices as I see it. Either have one of the worst wars that we can possibly imagine. Please remember, Palestinians are terrified tonight, and so are Israelis. Why? Because they both are afraid we're on the brink of a terrible war, because we are. We can stop this now. Have a ceasefire now. Don't wait till the end of this war to start drawing up plans for a new two-state solution. Start doing this now. And that is what I would be talking to Israel about, and that is what I would be talking to other world leaders about. That is the only possible solution here. There never was a military solution. Justice is the only solution, and justice is the only solution now. Justice for Israel and justice for the Palestinians is the same thing. Stop this now. And I believe that there are Arab leaders and possibly others who could help broker a deal more so than they are doing now. Qatar is doing it, but we need more. If somebody can get in there and say, release those hostages in exchange for the cessation of these bombings.
You do realize there are thousands of Palestinians that are sitting in Israeli jails being held without charges. Why are they not considered to be hostages? Right? I mean, you know, these people are sitting in Israeli jails. They have no charges against them. If anything, they should be considered to be hostages. But, you know, I want to free all hostages. Hostage taking is wrong. I agree with that. All of them should be freed.
And let's get immediately to work on the parameters of a two-state solution. Other American presidents have tried. They have failed. But it's time to get it done now. Like I said, I don't trust the Bibi Netanyahu is the perfect person to work on this. But I know that there are enlightened leaders. There's a new breed of leadership in the Arab world, among the Palestinians, and among the Israelis. And they would be welcome in my office. So would any world leader who wants to find a way that we can get to work on a two-state solution in a way that the Israelis and the Palestinians will come to accept. Let's do that now. Let's stop this. Let's cease fire. It's more than a humanitarian pause. Let's stop this. Let's not do this. This is a horrifying possibility here. And yes, it is a possibility for World War III. And we need an American president who will say so. I would be that president if I was there right now. I will be a president who works together with Arab American leaders as well as Jewish American leaders. There are some fine, enlightened thinkers, heartfelt people living in this country who can help work out America's attitude, America's basic premise as it is applied to this situation, so that we can be active participants and leaders in the plans for a two-state solution. It is time. Thank you.
So there you go. You know, that's Marianne Williamson's perspective. And look, I mean, at this point, right, you know, we can talk about different interpretations of Israel and Palestine. We can talk about a lot of things. But at the end of the day, there needs to be an immediate ceasefire. Israel has to be stopped from doing what it's doing. And that is the rallying cry of the international community. There's got to be a ceasefire right now. And the fact that that's not being discussed, I mean, it's pretty, that's what the whole world is calling for. And the USA is blocking that at the United Nations. It's utter insanity. So there you go. Now, the next super chat that came in this morning, and then I'll start answering questions that came in, not this morning, came in this afternoon when I was streaming before I had to go cover the UN meeting. The next question that came in, it was from, I think, Gonzalo. And he asked, why was I selected to lead the World Youth Festival? Is it because I work in Russian media? I mean, no, because, I mean, I do work in Russian media, but I'll have you know that I first attended a World Youth Festival in 2013 before I worked at any Russian media. At that point, I did not work in Russian media. But in December of 2013, I attended the World Youth Festival in Quito, Ecuador. And I was a delegate representing it. And I even gave a speech. You know, I was a member of the Workers' World Party, and I gave a speech about the festival to a Workers' World event. I'll just put that on for a few minutes. So this was in 2013 before I ever worked at any Russian media. You know, just let me pull up the video here. Hold up. And this is back in 2013. It would take a lot out of somebody. We had over 20 different meetings with different folks. There were 15,000 different youth from, I think, somewhere between 83 and 100 countries around the world who attended the festival. It was quite a big gathering. So, I mean, I want to start out by saying that we're Marxists. We see the world in terms of classes. We talk about, you know, there's a very, very small group of people who own the banks, the factories, the land, the oil wells, the natural resources. We call them the capitalists. And then there's everybody else. There's the rest of us who have nothing to sell but our labor power. And in order to survive, we have to sell our labor to a capitalist in order to survive. And that the way capitalism has developed, it's gotten to the point that, you know, the capitalists in the United States, the capitalists in Britain, capitalists in France, Germany, other Western countries, they don't just exploit the workers of their own country. They exploit the workers of the entire world. And from the labor of the workers of the entire world, they make super profits. They don't just make profits, they make super profits. And that the workers in the oppressed and colonized countries of the world, they not only are they exploited, but they're super exploited. Their conditions are far worse than what is faced by workers. And this international global setup is not just capitalism, it's the setup called imperialism. And that's what capitalism has become in the modern time. But, you know, all of us who went, Bao Han from Los Angeles, Colleen from Baltimore, Danielle and Andy from North Carolina, and myself, we already knew that. That's what we knew. We took that with us. But what we learned while we were at the World Festival of Youth and Students is that this international setup, this order called imperialism, is being challenged. There is a global movement of people all over the world who are rising up against it. And it's a very, very exciting time that we're living in. Things are changing, and we saw it firsthand. We witnessed it. We didn't just hear talks about it. We didn't just read about it. We witnessed that imperialism is under great threat and the people of the world are in motion. Now, because of unique circumstances in my life, I was actually able to visit Ecuador about 13 years ago when I was 12 years old. I was able to visit Ecuador. And the Ecuador that I saw about 13 years ago was an entirely different country than the Ecuador that I came to visit, last week. It was entirely different. Things have really changed. When I went to Ecuador at the age of 12, we arrived at about my father and I, we arrived in Ecuador at about 2 in the morning. And when we got off the plane, as we walked out, there was like a space between the entrance to the airport and the street. And outside of the airport, in this space and the sidewalk, this was 2 in the morning. There was a crowd of thousands and thousands of people who would come there all the time, begging for anything. And there was a group of cops whose job it was to keep all the starving people away from the tourists. So I remember that at 12 years old, walking out, seeing this crowd of starving people, and just having the cops push everyone back. I remember as a youth, we went, I got on the, when I was 12 years old, we went from site to site. We went to some historic churches in Quito, Ecuador, and everywhere we went, there was a crowd of starving, desperate people everywhere. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but at that time, Ecuador was suffering under what's been called neoliberalism. And this is a word we should all, as revolutionaries, understand. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the capitalist, imperialist class of the United States felt as if they had no opposition. There was no one who could challenge them. And so in Asia and Africa and Latin America, they said, we're going to go for it all. One of the most famous examples is, they set up these institutions, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization. And in countries all throughout Latin America, Africa, and Asia, they forced people to just give up everything, just take everything. And of course, they justified it. They had a lot of rhetoric, Milton Friedman and all of them. If we just introduce this complete free market capitalism, it's going to bring prosperity. But the results were mass suffering. Famously in Bolivia, they privatized the water resources. They sold the water resources to U.S. corporations. They made it a crime for people to even collect water on their roof, because if you collected rainwater on your roof, they said that was stealing from Nestle and Coca-Cola, and people were jailed for collecting rainwater on their roof. And in Ecuador, probably the most extreme example of what was done was that the Ecuador for a long time, just like many countries around the world, had its own currency. It had the Ecuadorian dollar. Well, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the World Trade Organization said, you don't have the right to have that anymore. And so now, today, as a result of the policies of neoliberalism and imperialism, even today in Ecuador, people carry around the bills they carry around in their pocket. They don't have people from Ecuador on the bills. They have George Washington. They carry down the same currency we have. And when they switched to the U.S. dollar, when they forced the people of Ecuador to switch to the U.S. dollar, it wrecked their economy. And that's when I was there 13 years ago, just after their economy had completely wrecked. Indigenous people were thrown off their land. There was mass starvation and hunger. And as Marxists, we understand that nothing is permanent, and that oppression breeds resistance. And all over Latin America, this neoliberalism, this go for the kill that the capitalists and the imperialists had kind of forced on, it bred a fight back. And the Cubans, the Cuban government, the revolutionary socialist government of Cuba had a key role in that fight back. They had conferences against neoliberalism. And in Ecuador, one of the great victories was in 2006. In 2006, a president was elected, President Rafael Correa, who identified with the movement and the uprisings and the protests and the strikes against neoliberalism. And Rafael Correa was elected. And, it's important that when we talk about Latin America, we don't, we have to keep in mind these countries were not always poor. That's one of the myths we always hear, is that, these countries have always been poor, they've always been suffering. Latin America, especially Ecuador, was a center of the Incas, a vibrant, powerful, rich civilization that was destroyed by Spanish imperialism and colonialism. We have to keep that in mind. But these countries, they've been exploited, and President Correa took office, and his election was essentially a referendum on imperialism. That's what people were voting on. It was, you could vote for the candidates who'd supported the policies of the international banks and neoliberalism, or you could vote for Correa, someone who identified with the protest movement. Now, Correa has taken office, and he says his goal is to take Ecuador to socialism. But we know socialism is a word that has a lot of different definitions to a lot of different people. The government of Ecuador at this point is a coalition government. It includes a lot of social democrats, people who think that gradually we're going to fix up capitalism and eventually it'll become socialism. It also includes communists, people like us who want to overturn this capitalist system and build a new world. And it also includes a lot of capitalists, because think about it. The capitalists of Ecuador are being just pummeled and defeated by the imperialists. And if they want to stand up for themselves and fight against the imperialist capitalists of the United States, the only choice they have is to enter a coalition to enter a coalition with the working class and the oppressed in Ecuador. So that's the situation. It's a coalition government. Their goal is to lead to socialism, but, you know, will they do it? We don't know. It's a process that's going on in Ecuador. It's a process. And it's not enough simply to point out that Ecuador is still a capitalist country, because it is. Because something's happening there. Something's happening in Ecuador and also in Bolivia, also in Venezuela. Things are happening. Conditions are changing, and we need to pay attention to it. As Marxists, we're scientists. You know, we're studying the world. We're studying things as they change and develop. We can't just, you know, it's not like there's some holy book that says on the 5th day thou shalt seize this bank. It doesn't work that way. You know, we're scientifically analyzing, and something's really happening. While we were in Ecuador, one of the things we saw was that, you know, there's free dental care. Now think about this. Here in the United States, the dental care is being cut. You know, even the highest paid workers don't get dental benefits anymore. This is part of the cutbacks that are going on. But in Ecuador, if you're an ordinary working class person, you can get in line. They have these tents set up, and when it's your turn, you go in and they give you free dental care, no questions asked. That's one thing that's going on. In Ecuador, the Cubans, they've had an arrangement that the Cubans have set up healthcare clinics in which Cuban doctors are there providing free health care to the people. One of the things we also saw is, you know, crime is a big problem in Ecuador. And one thing we saw is that the government provides free martial arts and self-defense training to all the youth. And so in the morning, at the park where the World Festival of Youth and Students were, you know, there would be the young people, and they'd be doing their, you know, karate and learning how to defend themselves, and they'd be wearing uniforms with the flag of Ecuador on it. And, you know, I was able to interview, and there's a video on YouTube you can watch of one of the instructors explaining how, you know, self-defense is part of the Bolivarian process, and how this is one of the great reforms that President Correa has brought about, is the free martial arts classes for the youth. When I was in Ecuador, things had really changed from when I was there as a child. I mean, the streets are paved, you know. There was homelessness, there was poverty, but it was nothing like the Ecuador I saw 13 years ago. And it's not just because of these popular reforms that that's come about. It's important to keep in mind that, you know, when the imperialists, when the U.S. imperialists, the British imperialists, the German imperialists, when they trade with a country, the result is impoverishment of the country. It's an exploitive relationship. But now with Correa, an anti-imperialist leader, now they're trading with China, and they're trading with Russia, and they're trading with Iran. And these are trades in which the colonized and oppressed countries of the world are trading with each other. And it's not an exploitive relationship. There's a new kind of global market developing of oppressed countries trading with oppressed countries, no longer being forced to trade with the imperialists. And that has resulted in a lot of economic development. And that's part of what's going on as well. One thing to keep in mind about the Bolivarian process in Latin America is that it's highly inspired by the Cuban Revolution. The Cuban Revolution is very key in it. They're paying very close attention to what the Cubans are doing, and that's kind of guiding them. And so, you know, we don't know where the Bolivarian process is going to end up. We know that there are a lot of different class forces involved, a lot of political forces. We don't know where it's going to end up, but it's a very exciting thing. And it's improving the lives of working people in Ecuador, and that's very, very clear. And, you know, after President Correa was elected, in 2009, the police worked with the CIA, and they tried to overthrow him. He was kidnapped by the police. And all the workers and the people poured out into the streets to protect President Correa. And there was an uprising of the people to defend their president, who identified with their anti-imperialist protest and their movement, and they defended him. And they were defending something. They were defending something. They were defending a government that tries its hardest, is moving to break the chains of imperialism. And that was very, very significant, and that's important to point out. So this festival we attended, the World Festival of Youth and Students, the first, you know, they have them every 4 years. The first World Festival of Youth and Students was held in 1947. And it was held in Prague in Czechoslovakia, and it was communist youth from all over the world gathered in Prague, and they gathered, you know, and they founded an organization called the World Federation of Democratic Youth. Now, it's important to point out, you know, these were all communists. You know, it was the Young Communist League of the United States, the Young Communist League of the Soviet Union. It was all communists, but they gathered and they called their federation the World Federation of Democratic Youth. You think, why didn't they call it the World Federation of Communist Youth? Well, that was a different time. You know, 1947 was very different than the United States. And nowadays we hear a lot of nonsense. You know, you go to school, you turn on the TV, people tell you that, you know, communism and fascism are the same thing. 1947 people didn't think that. Why? Because the communists had been known as the most militant and revolutionary anti-fascist fighters. You know, and the capitalists of the world had loved Hitler. The King of England was actually forced to resign because he'd been so sympathetic to the Nazis. Henry Ford, a very prominent prominent capitalists here in the United States, he would give away pro-Nazi literature with every car. Hitler had given him the Iron Cross. Coca-Cola, you know, there's Fanta Orange and there's Coca-Cola. Well, the reason there's Fanta Orange was that was the drink that the Coca-Cola sold to the Nazis, had a business relationship with them. And when the Soviet Union, you know, marched into Berlin, when they unfurled the hammer and sickle flag over Berlin, when they defeated the Nazis, everyone knew that it was the communists that were the anti-fascists. Even in Germany, where the communists had been it was totally illegal to be a communist. The communists functioned as an underground group, and they would get jobs. They would get jobs in the defense, not defense, but they've had them in Pyongyang and Moscow. They called this international grouping of communist youth, they called it the World Democratic Youth Federation. And every 4 years they would have these great big festivals, and often it was in a country that was building socialism. At that time, Czechoslovakia was building socialism. They've had them in Pyongyang and Moscow and elsewhere. But after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, they stopped having them for a little while. But it was the Cubans in 1997 that revived the World Festival of Youth and Students very historically with a call. And they said, we got to keep this going. We're not going to surrender. You know, the imperialists with their neoliberalism and all that, they think they've triumphed, but communism needs to fight back. We need to be on the march. And they convened a World Festival of Youth and Students in 1997. It's been going ever since. One of the most exciting parts of the trip was when we met with youth from socialist countries. We had meetings with the Cuban youth, with the youth from Vietnam, with the youth from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And I mean, you know, some of those meetings, you heard some really inspiring things. So that was in 2013, before I had ever worked in any Russian media, before I had ever been to Russia. You know, at that point I had just been to Ecuador. I hadn't even been to Iran yet at that point. So, you know, my roots in this kind of thing go pretty far back, no doubt about it. So, you know, yeah, if you think the only reason that they have me here is because I had me lead the delegation, is because I work at RT. You are dead wrong, my friend. There's a lot more to it. You can watch that whole speech. Watch my whole speech from 2013. You can watch it. I'll drop the link in the chat. But I've been doing this kind of stuff for a long time. You know, that speech, it's funny. I was thinking about how much my views have changed since then. But honestly, I listened to that speech. There's not much I said in that 2013 speech that I don't agree with now. I haven't heard anything in there that I disagree with now. I've really stayed the same, more or less. I still have the same view. What has changed is the group that I was with no longer talks that way. They stopped believing that. I haven't. I've been doing this thing for a long time. Look, you know, one thing, I got to just tell you all of this, right? I'm happy that I'm going to the World Youth Festival. I'm happy that members of the Center for Political Innovation are going to the World Youth Festival. But I wish that every member of the Center for Political Innovation could go to the World Youth Festival. Every single one of us. That's what I wish. And as much as this is not easy to do, I want us to make every CPI conference a World Youth Festival, right? And I'm being dead serious about this. The fact that we begin every meeting with the World Youth Federation, the World Democratic Youth Pledge of Unity, right? The fact that we do that, right? That's what we're trying to do. And with a flag ceremony at the beginning of every meeting, we have a flag ceremony. What do you think that's about? What do you think that's about? We are bringing the ideology of the World Youth Festivals, of the anti-imperialist camp. We are bringing that ideology to the United States. We are the city-building tendency in America. We are the U.S. division in the global class war. That's what we are. We are the U.S. division of the Belt and Road Initiative, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Bolivarian alternative of Latin America, the axis of resistance in the Middle East. That's what we are. We are that. And don't you doubt for a minute that that's what we are. And so basically, we have to bring the World Youth Festival. We have to bring this movement. We have to bring it to the United States. And that's what we're doing with CPI. We are bringing the World Festival to the United States. This is how we opened our event in July. Our small event in New York City in July. This is how we opened it. I'll skip to the way it began with the flag ceremony. Right, we had the praying from the pastor, and then after that,
Manhattan
right,
Family Church.
all right,
Kim Jong-un.
and
So thank you.
Now, if everyone could stand for the CPI Pledge of Unity. A copy is in the binder. Please stand, and please raise your right hand. We pledge, and repeat after me. We pledge that we shall remember this unity forged at the end of the Second World War.
We pledge that we shall remember this unity forged at the end of the Second World War.
Not only today, not only this week, this year, but always.
Not only today, not only this week, this year, but always.
Until we have built the world we have dreamed of and fought for.
Until we have built the world we have dreamed of and fought for.
We pledge ourselves to build the unity of the people of the world.
We pledge ourselves to build the unity of the people of the world.
All races, all colors, all nationalities, all beliefs.
All races, all colors, all nationalities, all beliefs.
To eliminate all traces of fascism from the earth.
To eliminate all traces of fascism from the earth.
To build a deep and sincere international friendship among the peoples of the world.
To build a deep and sincere international friendship among the peoples of the world.
To keep a just, lasting peace, to eliminate want, frustration, and enforced idleness.
To keep a just, lasting peace, to eliminate want, frustration, and enforced idleness.
We have come to confirm the unity of all people, to salute our comrades who have died.
We have come to confirm the unity of all people, to salute our comrades who have died.
And pledge our word that skillful hands, keen brains, and bold enthusiasm shall never more be wasted in war.
And pledge our word that skillful hands, keen brains, and bold enthusiasm shall never more be wasted in war.
Thank you. Now, if everyone could remain standing for our flag ceremony.
CPI, 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 CPI.
Anyway, yeah. And we are bringing the World Democratic Youth Festival. We are bringing it to the United States with our actions. And I'm very proud of that. Right? That's my communism. I'm not interested in this woke shit. Not interested in tearing the country down. I'm interested in building it up. So now I'm going to start answering people's questions. I don't see any Rumble rants at this point. I haven't seen any Rumble rants, and I don't see any Rockfin tips. So it looks like I'll be answering super chats first. But if anyone has any more super chats, anything more you want me to react to, answer, engage with, please go ahead. Now is the time. First, have you ever heard of Alan Sorrell? Sorrell. I was reading one of Dugin's books, and he provided the foreword. Was surprised given what I've heard of him. Alan Sorrell, he is a guy who was in the French Communist Party, and he has his own group. And yeah, he's associated with Dugin. And he's kind of a, there are a lot of guys like him in France who kind of have their own following, have their own little movement, you could say. I don't quite know what to say about Alan Sorrell. I've never been able to read any of his books in English. But I know he exists, and I think he went to prison for, he made a cartoon that the French government said was anti-Semitic, and he put it on his Facebook, and they threw him in prison for it, is my understanding. And he's one of these figures who comes out of the left, but he also draws from the right wing and from nationalism. And I don't know that much about him, to be honest with you, because I don't read French. He's a French political figure, but I do know that Dugin really likes him, or at least did at one time. Maybe their relationship has ended. I know he's a French political figure. He's been jailed for anti-Semitism, and he's associated with Dugin. Someone told me that he had a very good video about North Korea and what life was like in North Korea that's worth checking out. I haven't seen it. I just don't know enough about the guy, to be honest. And I can't tell you, maybe he really is anti-Semitic. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I mean, I'm called anti-Semitic all the time. So, it doesn't mean this guy necessarily is. I really just don't know enough about him. I can't give him an endorsement. I can't give him a condemnation. I know that he exists. I know that Dugin likes him to some degree or other, but I'm not Dugin. Dugin is Dugin. But, I have drawn and I've learned a lot from Alexander Dugin's work, despite there being content that I disagree with. The murder of Dugin's daughter was horrendous. And I met Dugin's daughter. I only met Alexander Dugin once in my life, but I met his daughter on many occasions, and it was a real tragedy to hear what happened to her. It was utterly, utterly horrendous. So there you go. All right. Next question. Was there really a pogrom in the Russian airport? Well, apparently there was a crowd of people that stormed an airport in an Islamic region of Russia. And they were doing so believing that there were Israelis that had arrived on the plane. And that's illegal, and they're being prosecuted. But it appears that the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian intelligence services fomented this, right? And that's what Russia has revealed, that through Telegram, through the app Telegram, the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian intelligence services fomented an anti-Jewish riot in Russia. And that's what's been revealed. And I talked about that at the opening of the stream. I showed Putin's remarks about this later. This was staged by, the Ukrainian intelligence officials manipulated people through social media, and it's illegal, and Russia's prosecuting people for it. But first of all, my understanding, I could be wrong, is they were not going there to target Jews. They were going there to target Israelis. And it was because they were angry about what Israel is currently doing, which is bombing around the clock and killing civilians. Israel is murdering civilians by the thousands right now. You can understand some people might be angry about that, right? I know in America, you're not supposed to care about those people. They're just Palestinians, so we're not supposed to care about them. But around the world, people don't share that American bias, okay? People actually do think that Palestinian lives matter. And because of that, they're a little angry about it. And so I guess my understanding of what happened is that Ukrainian intelligence spewed a bunch of propaganda into this area to foment this this riot, which the Russian government is treating as criminal activity, right? You're not allowed to do that. But at the same time, they're pointing at who incited it. It was clearly incited by the Ukrainian forces. So there you go. All right. Anyone who can should get on a bus to Washington, D.C. this weekend to march for the Yuru 3. Absolutely. They absolutely should go and support the Yuru 3. They need all the help they can get. We really, anything to stand with, the Yuru 3. And yeah, I mean, people don't realize how dangerous that Yuru case is. Free speech is on trial. They're basically trying to make it illegal to do anti-imperialist activism, right? And so, and the fact that people, the Answer Coalition has acted the way it did, the fact that there's been such an effort, I mean, it is really reprehensible, utterly reprehensible, the way people are not rallying around the case the way that they should. That case should be the focus right now, right? And I'm suspicious of anybody who calls themselves an anti-imperialist and is not screaming about that case from the heavens. It is vitally important, vitally important, right? Keep the super chats rolling in, folks. The more that I have to talk about, the better. So there we go. Why did they choose you as the chair? You asked this afternoon, and I already answered it. Because I've been going to their festivals for years. I attended the festival in 2017 in Russia. I attended the festival in 2013 in Quito, Ecuador. Because I've been going to Russia with the foreign ministry on many occasions. I've been to a number. I went to the World Conference of Parliamentarians. I went to the Yalta Economic Forum. And the people that are organizing the festival know me, and they know my work. And they've met me on many occasions, and they considered me to be a trustworthy guy. It's not simply that I work at Russian media, though I'm sure that's a factor, right? They see the work that I do on RT. They think I do a good job. I'm sure that's part of why I was invited. But it's not the only reason. So there you go. What other organizations are involved? As of now, it is the Center for Political Innovation, the Party of Communists USA, and the American Student Union. Those are the three groups that are represented on the National Planning Committee. Now, there was another organization we did reach out to that they didn't want to be on. They may still participate in the festival, but they did not want to be part of the National Preparatory Committee. And I understand a number of people have registered on the website already. There's been a number of registrations at this point that have already come in from different people that are part of different organizations. So, obviously we're going to have to go through all of those registrations as the National Preparatory Committee. That will be our task. That will be our job to go through. This festival is a really big deal. It's a really, really big deal, folks. You have no idea how big of a deal it is. It's already got a Wikipedia page. There's already a Wikipedia page, right, for the World Youth Festival 2024. I am not exaggerating. It already has a Wikipedia page, right? Already. It hasn't even happened yet. And there's already a Wikipedia page about the festival. I mean, this, you have no idea. This is, especially with the war in Ukraine and everything that's going on right now, this festival is pretty darn important. Pretty darn important. It's a big deal, right? So I expect in the lead up to it, the FBI is going to be going to all of our houses and threatening us with all kinds of stuff. They're going to smear it and call it a pro-Putin Nazi rally. And they're going to do everything they can to prevent Americans from going to it, to demonize the festival, but we will not back down. And they're going to come for me, and they're going to smear my reputation as if God forbid they do that. It's not like I've been through that already. They're going to go after me on a personal level. They're going to go after other organizers of the festival. I mean, they're going to be vicious. We know that, but we can withstand. We've been through this before, and we can withstand. And that's probably, again, another reason I was chosen, is because I'm not going to back down. Other people that have been subjected to what I've been subjected to would have backed down by now. They would have surrendered, but I haven't. I've been stabbed in the back by friends. I've been lied about. I've been smeared in the media, but I have not backed down. I have put in the time, and I've shown that I'm not a coward. There's a lot of people who come along. We're all fun and games, love to talk this way. But the second it gets tough, the second someone's reputation gets smeared on the internet, or someone's feelings get hurt, or somebody's family calls them up, and doesn't want them to participate, all of a sudden they're out. Not this guy. I'm in this for real. And they can tell by now. I have not backed down. I've got a long record of doing this stuff. If I was going to back down, I would have done it already. I'm in this for real. I am in this for real. So there you go. There you go. Right? You know, there you go. There you go. Okay. Did you see Mumia's statement on behalf of Yuru? I have not, but that sounds very important. Let's find that. Mumia Abu-Jamal Yuru movement. Let's see if there's a video or something of that. Because that, yeah, hands off Yuru. Statement by Mumia Abu-Jamal for the Yuru 3. That sounds very important. So I am going to put, oh, there's a video. Perfect. So I'm going to put it on. I am going to put it on. That sounds really important. I did not know this existed. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. We are gonna watch that video right now because Mumia Abu-Jamal is a very famous American political prisoner. The fact that he is speaking up for the Yuru 3, that's very important as well. So there you go. All right. Let's put it on. Statement by Mumia Abu-Jamal for the Yuru 3. And David Rovics performed a song about the Yuru 3. We'll probably put that on here one of these days also. But yeah, this is this is Mumia Abu-Jamal's statement for the Yuru 3. Right? If anyone else has any more super chats, I see, you know, Battle Cossack has got more. But yeah, we're going to put that on. So Mumia, statement by Mumia for the Yuru 3. Just waiting for it to load. Don't you love waiting for the computer to catch up? Just waiting for it to load, folks. Just waiting for it to load. Oh, here it is. Statement by Mumia Abu-Jamal for the Yuru 3.
The Yuru 3. Dismiss all charges. 3 major radical figures are in the crosshairs of the U.S. government, allegedly for unregistered foreign agents of a foreign government, Russia. They are Chairman Omali Yeshitela, head of the African People's Socialist Party, headquartered in St. Petersburg, Florida, and 2 of his assistants, Penny Hess and Jesse Neville. The 3 are charged with being unregistered agents because they wrote or spoke out in defense of Russia's position in the world today. But so what? Aren't people free to speak their minds or write what they wish against U.S. government policy? Aren't they protected by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution? When Chairman Yeshitela appeared in court in May of 2023, he did so in handcuffs and leg irons for holding an opinion. So I guess if you're a radical, the First Amendment doesn't really apply. Consider this. Shortly after Yeshitela's arraignment in irons, a U.S. Senator, former Foreign Affairs Chairman Bob Melendez, was charged with not only being an unregistered foreign agent, but of allegedly receiving thousands of dollars, a sports car, and even gold bars from several foreign governments. And guess what he wore to court? I mean, besides an expensive suit. So much for equal justice under law. And while both Yeshitela and Melendez are roughly the same age, one is a black radical and a freedom fighter. The other is a wealthy, politically connected politician. Guess who got the chains. But the First Amendment, the freedom to write or say what one wishes, to which we say free the Uhuru Three, dismiss all the charges with love, not fear. This is Mumia Abu-Jamal.
These commentaries are recorded by Prison Radio.
Yeah. So that's a great statement from Mumia Abu-Jamal about the Uhuru case. And I think David Rovix has a song about the Uhuru case that I'll put on if I can find it here. I can put it on, right? Anything to raise awareness about the Uhuru case is really, really important. So let me see if I can find his Uhuru song. Let me see if I can find it. It's so important to stand with the Uhuru Three right now. But having trouble finding it here. Well, if anyone else knows where they can find his song about the Uhuru case, I'm trying to see. I don't know what it's called. That's the problem. So yeah. If anyone knows what it's called, I'm looking on his YouTube channel right now, but I cannot find it. Well, if anyone else can help find the Uhuru case song by David Rovix, we would love to play it on here. But there we go. So that was really, really great. That's Mumia Abu-Jamal's statement for Uhuru. What are my plans for Halloween? Well, my plans for Halloween are that I'm going to come on here and stream. I'll be on here at noon. I'll be on here in the evening. Yeah, that's my plans for Halloween. You know, little known fact, y'all. So Halloween, right? Funny story. When I was a kid, Halloween was very controversial. It was a big controversy in my little town in Ohio because it's a traditional American holiday. On Halloween, the last day of October, kids dress up in silly costumes and adults give them candy. And it's just like the oldest tradition. I don't know, how long have people been doing that? Since like 1900 or something. It's just a thing that happens in America. Is on Halloween, kids dress up in silly costumes and grownups give them candy. You know, and people watch scary movies, and that's Halloween. Now it comes from the kind of fascinating. It comes from the Christian tradition, the Catholic holiday of All Saints' Day. The 1st of November in the Catholic tradition is called All Saints' Day, and that's the day that people who died go to heaven, that their souls ascend into heaven. You have a special church service, you know, and that's Catholics believe that if you died throughout the year, your spirit, your soul ascends into heaven on November 1st, which is called All Saints' Day. So the tradition is that October 31st, that's the last night that the souls, the spirits are on the earth, right? And they used to call it All Hallows Eve because that's the last night that the souls are on the earth. And in Mexico, they have the whole tradition, the Day of the Dead, you know, which is, you know, they have a whole festival and people decorate and visit the graves of their dead relatives and they wear skull masks and it's a whole tradition. And even when I was a kid, you know, the first Sunday service of every November, they would light a candle in the church for every member of the church who had died that year. But when I was a kid in my little town, right, Halloween was very, very controversial due to the fact that a lot of evangelicals thought it was satanic. They thought it was a pagan holiday. And that's interesting because of the fact that it's actually a Christian holiday. Right? It's actually a Christian holiday. Right? It comes from All Hallows Eve, All Saints' Day. But because it involves monsters, right? It involves vampires and witches and zombies and, you know, scary stuff. They thought it was satanic. You know, and they didn't like Harry Potter books. They thought they were satanic as well. They're teaching kids to be witches and such and to practice witchcraft and worship Satan. And, they didn't like it. So in my town, they changed Halloween to Autumn Festival. So every year we would have, instead of Halloween, we would have Autumn Festival, right? Not to offend the Christians. So the kids would dress up. We all dressed up for the Autumn Festival. But even still, there were some kids in my class who couldn't attend the Autumn Festival because it was too much like Halloween. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, it is what it is. It's just a thing we do. Now, my understanding is in Britain, Halloween is a little bit different. And in Halloween, there's a lot of like crazy things that people do. In Halloween, people, they engage in a lot of pranks. They vandalize property. They do stuff like that. It's got a little bit, people don't like it for that reason in Britain, which I think is interesting. But other than that, that was, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's a thing. It's Halloween, right? I will say when I was in college, here's another Halloween story for you. When I was in college, the cafeteria, they had a couple different cafeterias on my campus. One of the cafeterias, they went a little too far with their Halloween decorations, a little too far. And I had trouble eating because the Halloween decorations, there were so many dead bodies and so much gore. It was just so gross. I couldn't swallow my food, and I just thought, you don't have to overdo it, right? I'm not the most cultural guy. I don't decorate, my wife, she loves to do that, right? She loves to put up, different like Christmassy decorations and stuff. I'm just not that decorative as a person, but some people are, and that's fine. You want to be decorative, enjoy yourself, right? Enjoy yourself. Good thing to do. Good thing to do. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I know the origins of Halloween are technically Christian. Now, if you think the Roman Catholic Church is not Christian, that's, part of your belief. You think it's contrary, whatever. That's theological. But it is a fact that Halloween is rooted in Christian practices, particularly Catholic Christian practices. And that must be pointed out. So just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there in case you were wondering, right? Can you dress up as Elvis on the stream? No, I cannot. No, I cannot. But that's sweet. I do like Elvis. I did win a contest when I was in junior high for dressing up as Elvis Presley. I won quite a bit of money. It was $100, but that was a lot of money back then. And I was in junior high. I won the junior high talent show. We're dressing up as Elvis Presley, wig, hat, the whole deal, and doing a performance. And that was a big deal in my little town, right? I was starting to sound like news from Lake Wobegon. It was the day of the jamboree, right? Did you ever listen to that? Right? On public radio, on national public radio, they had this guy. I think is he deceased now? His name was Garrison Keillor. Maybe he's still alive, but he used to have a radio show that he would talk about his little town in Minnesota called Lake Wobegon. And one day in Lake Wobegon, there was a guy who had just gotten out of the army. And it's like quaint small town stories that Garrison Keillor would tell, right? And it was on the radio. And I got to tell you, it was one of the most boring radio shows that ever existed. My family liked Garrison Keillor, but he would get on there and he would talk like this with his boring voice about news from Lake Wobegon. And it was an interesting day. Steve and Ann lived in Lake Wobegon, and they had gotten divorced that year. I mean, it was just really, really, really boring. No, Funky loved it. She loved it, and he got me too'd. He got me too'd. That is true. He did get me too'd. His version of events was that, well, anyway, it's not important. You can go and watch the interview about what happened. I don't know what happened, and I don't know. I doubt he didn't come across. I mean, the sad thing about Me Too, right, is it's getting, people used to take this thing seriously, okay? And now it's turned into, if you like the person, they did it. And if you don't like the person, they're just being smeared. And that's bad because, sexual assault, sexual harassment, rape, these are all serious, bad things, right? And it shouldn't be whether you like the person or not, whether the allegation is true. But now everyone gets accused of everything. And, it's that whole thing about, what is it that they said? If everyone's guilty of everything, then no one's guilty of anything. I mean, and it's starting to be like that, right? If everyone's a Nazi, pretty soon nobody's a Nazi, right? I mean, if everyone's a white supremacist, pretty soon no one's a white supremacist. So there you go. Mac, he liked him. So I guess I should be more polite to Mr. Keillor because he was quite popular among my audience. Do I sound like him? Is that why there's so many people who like him? Is that, do I channel Garrison Keillor on here? When I tell my small town stories, my quaint stories of my little town in Ohio that didn't allow us to have Halloween. We had to have the autumn festival. It was in Orville, Ohio. It was autumn festival. Now, this is what they called Halloween. They couldn't have Halloween in Orville, but Caleb didn't mind, and he dressed up as Elvis for the annual talent show. I don't know. I mean, is this, CPI needs to have, is this one of those lighter moments? Is this, Caleb is reflecting, sounding like Garrison Keillor? I don't know. I remember I did at one point watch a documentary about the life of the American writer F. Scott Fitzgerald. And who did they interview? Who was the talking head they picked to talk about F. Scott Fitzgerald? Who, if you're going to interview someone about a famous American writer from the 1930s, who would you interview? No one other than Garrison Keillor. F. Scott Fitzgerald was an American writer. And it was something else. But anyway, folks, enough about Halloween. I will not be dressing up as Elvis for tomorrow's stream, but I do appreciate the lightheartedness of these streams. I'm glad we have a community here where we can joke. If anyone has any more super chats, keep asking them because we're running low, right? We got only a couple more here. Only a couple more before I have to go away, right? So if you want to ask a question, ask now. I got a couple more. I got two more. Here's Saviero says he's an atheist and I love you all. Well, that's good, right? And again, there is no political test or no religious test. There is political test. You got to agree with our 4-point plan, but there is no religious test for joining the Center for Political Innovation. None at all. Many of us are Christian, but of us who are Christian, there are different denominations. We have Catholics, we have a number of different varieties of Protestants. We have some Orthodox members, among our members that are supporting Russia. There's kind of a trend that some of them have become Orthodox. Not a big number, but, there's some, and, that's fine. We have a number of atheists in CPI. We have, you saw Tim, he taught us how to meditate. Zen Buddhism is a very important part of Tim's background and tradition, and he's taught us to do Zen meditations at our retreats, and it's been a very, very great contribution that he's made, drawing from his Zen religious background. So we are very, very much a multi-faith organization. People of different faiths and different backgrounds are respected and appreciated. So there you go. We allow people of different faith traditions and different backgrounds in the Center for Political Innovation. So there's that. Now, the Yuru case reminded me of the Hollywood 10. The Hollywood 10 case is a little bit different. Right? So the Hollywood 10 case, right? That was a very famous case. And what that was about was that there were 10 Hollywood screenwriters who refused to name names. Right? They were communists, Communist Party members, and they were called before the House Un-American Activities Committee and told to name other members of the Communist Party. And they refused to cooperate with the committee and name other members. They refused to answer whether they were members of the Communist Party. They were respected Hollywood screenwriters who had joined the Communist Party, and they wouldn't rat out their friends. And so they went to prison for refusing to rat out their friends. and it was, it was a famous case, the Hollywood 10. Dalton Trumbo, John Howard Lawson. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember the rest of their names, but they pooled their money and they made a movie called The Salt of the Earth, which is a great movie about mining workers in Arizona. A very powerful film. And actually, they made a short film about their case. And these were all guys that were Communist Party members. If anyone has any more super chats, that'd be great. And while we're waiting for that, why don't we just watch their little film that they made, the Hollywood 10. This is their documentary, their little film that they made to raise awareness about their case and how they were being sent to prison. I think they all went to prison for 1 or 2 years for refusing to rat out their friends in Hollywood and refusing to testify against, and name names before the House Un-American Activities Committee. They were very heroic individuals. These are the people that we should look to for inspiration. If you're worried about getting canceled, these guys got canceled so hard, they got blacklisted from their jobs and they went to federal prison. And these were some of the best screenwriters around at the time. But because they were communists, they went to federal prison. They didn't just get canceled. They got canceled all the way to prison. They didn't just get their reputation smeared. They got that. They also got sent to prison. This is the Hollywood 10. This is their documentary they made to raise awareness about their case.
People are going to have to choose between the Bill of Rights and the Thomas Committee. They cannot have both. One or the other must be abolished in the immediate future.
These are the Hollywood 10. These 8, and these 2. In the fall of 1947, they were subpoenaed to appear before the House Committee on Un-American Activities, whose chairman was J. Parnell Thomas. They did not behave to Mr. Thomas's satisfaction, and they were declared to be in contempt of Congress. They were tried and declared guilty. They appealed their cases to the higher courts, and their appeal was denied. All 10 are now in federal prison, serving 1-year sentences. We should like you to meet them. Albert Maltz, 41 years old, born in Brooklyn, novelist, playwright, writer of short stories and screenplays. His works are read in other countries. They've won prizes. The U.S. Army distributed this book to soldiers. His film, Destination Tokyo, was premiered by the Navy. The Marines praised him for Pride of the Marines. And the film industry honored his film on racial tolerance. His family will try to weigh these honors while he spends a year in federal prison. Lester Cole, born in New York City, 45 years old. He was a founding member of the Screenwriters Guild and served on its executive board as president and vice president. When he was summoned by the House Committee, he was a valued writer at this film studio, signed to a new contract to write and produce on that very day. Author of 40 screenplays, among them Romance of Rosie Ridge, Objective Burma, None Shall Escape. He is now in prison. Samuel Ornitz, 60 years of age, born in New York, novelist and screenwriter, lecturer and scholar. Author of a classical fictional study of American Jewish life, of a tender story for children, of a book whose hero was lynched by anti-Catholic bigots. As a social worker, he spent many years with the Prison Association in New York, helping thousands of people to get out of prison. He is now in prison himself. Adrian Scott, screenwriter and motion picture producer, born in New Jersey, 39 years old. This film studio considered Scott's services invaluable. His films were successful and celebrated. Do you remember Crossfire? It was not to the taste of J. Parnell Thomas. Now Adrian Scott, too, is in a federal prison. Alva Bessie, born in New York, age 46. Newspaper man, novelist, critic, and screenwriter. In the year 1938, he made his way across the Pyrenees as a volunteer for democracy. On the witness stand in Washington, he said, I not only supported the Spanish Republic, but it was my high privilege to serve in the ranks of its international brigades. He returned to the United States to write an account of that war, and in the Second World War served as second lieutenant in the Civil Air Patrol, Los Angeles Squadron 3. He wrote films as a contract writer for Warner Brothers Studios. He is now in prison. Edward Dmytryk, 41 years old, motion picture director. These films and many others were directed by Edward Dmytryk. As a reward for his distinguished contribution to world films, 1 year in prison. Ring Lardner Jr., born in Chicago, 34 years old. Two of his brothers died in separate chapters of the world struggle for democracy. One as a volunteer in the Loyalist forces in Spain, the other in Germany as an American war correspondent. Himself, author of a dozen screenplays, for one of which he received the highest award of the film industry. This film he wrote for a trade union to advance the idea of the equality of all races, of all nationalities. Ring Lardner Jr. is now a federal prisoner. John Howard Lawson, born in New York City, 56 years old. Volunteer ambulance driver in Italy in the First World War. Author of 9 plays. Author of many screenplays. Perhaps you remember some of them. A teacher, scholar, historian. He completed the first volume of A History of American Culture just before he entered prison. This is Mrs. Lawson. She and their children will wait for him. Herbert Biberman, 50 years old, born in Philadelphia. He directed plays for the Theater Guild, the leading theatrical organization of America. He produced and directed films for various motion picture companies. And he was the organizer of the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League, one of the first groups to warn the world against Hitlerism. Always, he devoted his energies to decency and humanity. He is now in a federal prison. Dalton Trumbo, born in Colorado, 44 years old, writer of novels. A writer of pamphlets in the tradition of Zola and Thoreau. Writer of films. Kitty Foyle, a guy named Joe, 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. War correspondent in the South Pacific. Special consultant at the first United Nations conference in 1945. 5 years later, he said goodbye to his family to go to prison. 10 men. What was their crime? Why are they in prison? There were 2 questions. Listen.
Now, Mr. Trumbo.
Are you a member of the Screenwriters Guild?
Mr. Stool, the right of American labor to inviolably secret membership lists have been won in this country by a great cost of blood and at great cost in terms of hunger.
Are you now, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
Unless it has been changed since yesterday. In our country, we have a secret ballot. And I do not believe this committee has any more right to inquire into my political affiliations than I believe that an election official has the right to go into the voting booth and examine the ballot that has been marked by the voter.
No. Thus, J. Parnell Thomas. He has been put in prison as a common thief. But the 10, do they belong there?
We don't like the idea of going to prison. Our personal lives, our families, our work are as important to us as to anyone else. To explain to a child of 7, 10, or 12 why his father must go to prison, no, it's not easy.
Why didn't we avoid all this? Why didn't we answer the questions yes or no as the committee demanded? Because we wanted to challenge the right of the committee to ask such questions.
Whose words are these? Do you know? No official, high or petty, may prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act their faith therein. Supreme Court Justice Jackson wrote this. This was the law of the land until April 10th, 1950.
On that day, by its refusal to hear our case, the court washed its hands of the rights of the American people. Our rights, your rights. And sitting in silence on the bench was the same Mr. Justice Jackson.
When we appeared before J. Parnell Thomas and his committee, we thought the Constitution guaranteed the rights of everyone. We believed the Supreme Court would certainly stand behind its own decisions. Well, we were mistaken.
The committee is now free to operate, to drag before it 1,000 people, or the million it boasts it has on its list. How are you going to answer the committee's questions?
Answer yes or no. Are you a member of the Communist Party, of the Progressive Party? Did you ever give $1 to Loyalist Spain? Did you ever sign a petition against the Munn-Ferguson bill?
How will you answer? You can't refuse to answer yes or no. That's contempt. It means a prison sentence for you, just as it does for us.
Suppose you answer yes. How will it look smeared all over the front pages of your hometown newspaper? And what'll happen to your job?
But that's not all. You answer yes, I was at such and such a meeting. Or yes, I'm a member of that organization.
Is that the end? The next question is, who else was there? Who else is a member? We want names, places, people. Do you want to keep out of trouble? Then become a stool pigeon.
Or suppose you answer no to a question.
Perjury. Sign up for perjury.
Perjury? What do you mean, perjury?
I can prove you're a communist. Louis Badenz will testify. Whittaker Chambers will testify. Why, the Department of Justice has 24 professional witnesses who travel around the country proving nothing else.
But those men are liars.
Sure, Whittaker Chambers is a liar. Yet Alger Hiss got 5 years.
Don't you see? These investigations are actually traps. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. It's a form of legal lynching.
And this is the kind of lynching the Supreme Court refused to stop.
We are aware of a developing nightmare of fear in our land, in which increasing numbers of citizens are being forced to swear, I am not this, I am not that, I don't belong to anything, I don't believe in anything, I don't criticize anything.
Loyalty oaths and loyalty boards, and nobody is loyal who criticizes the bipartisan foreign policy. Thought control entering the university campuses, educators being fired, film studios enlisting in the Cold War, labor leaders being framed on perjured testimony, lawyers sent to prison for defending their clients. The reputation, career, and liberty of any citizen at the mercy of the professional stool pigeon.
Yes, government by stool pigeon.
Everybody investigating everybody else. And for this, on April 24th, 1950, President Truman claimed credit.
Boasting in a public speech that his administration had convicted citizens of contempt for refusing to testify before congressional committees.
Not just one court or one committee. Not just the Department of Justice, but the State Department. Not just the Supreme Court, but the President himself. Why? Why?
Could it be that the Cold War is responsible? Is it possible that under the pretext of the Cold War, civil rights are to be taken from the American people?
So that the very people who would have to fight and die in such a war will have no say on whether to go to war or not.
There are many problems in our relations with the Soviet Union. But shall people who say no, there must be a way to peace, shall such people be investigated, smeared, blacklisted, sent to prison?
When we were asked, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party, the committee was really preparing to ask you, are you now or have you ever been in favor of peace?
Who is loyal to this land? Those who want to settle world problems with the hydrogen bomb?
We feel that the question of peace and war, of devastated cities, of millions of dead Americans, is too important to be left to the generals.
Or in the hands of the Committee on Un-American Activities.
In 1859, Abraham Lincoln said, "The people are the rightful masters of the Congresses and the courts."
We believe this, and for asserting that belief before a congressional committee, 10 of us are going to prison, casualties of the Cold War. How many more will there be?
There need be no more. That depends on you. Truly, it depends on you. Truly, it depends on you.
All righty. That was a great, powerful film from the Hollywood 10. 10 Hollywood screenwriters that went to prison because they wouldn't rat on their colleagues. They wouldn't, answer questions about their political affiliation. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Some of it could have been said today about professors being fired. And I mean, wow. So the next super chat, I have another super chat, and please send, if you want me to keep talking here, oh, another one from Funky, but the next super chat we've got, it is thoughts on the UAW settlement. Well, funny story. I was on the phone today with our CPI member who was on the picket line, Tom Michalak, who is a member of our organization, has attended many of our retreats and events. He's been a friend of mine for years. I knew him years ago when he was in the Workers' World Party. And Tom Michalak and we talked on the phone today, and he said, "Hey, Caleb, I'm, this is my last day on strike. It looks like the strike is over." And I said, "Well, what do you think of it?" And he said there's some good things, that he's going to get back pay, but he's waiting to hear the whole deal, but it looks like the strike is over. And I said, "Well, can I have you on the show next week to talk about the strike?" And he said, "Absolutely." So next week, Tom Michalak, who's a member of the Center for Political Innovation, and myself will be having an in-depth conversation about that very issue on this stream. So you'll get a full answer from an actual auto worker in actual Detroit, Bob. So there you go. I'm not ready to say anything about it because I'm not there in the moment, but Tom absolutely is in the moment. He is there, and there you go. So we'll be hearing from Tom on the stream next week. Oh, that's a good one. We'll watch that for sure. Do you think we're reliving the Red Scare? Yes and no. I mean, they say history doesn't repeat itself. It rhymes, right? That history, it's not a cycle. It's not a circle. It's more like a DNA. It's like a double helix, right? It goes around, and that, yes, it's like the Red Scare, but it's different. Right. It's the Red Scare was very socially conservative. They used to say the Red Scare was also the Lavender Scare. They passed a law that no gay person could work in the federal government. And they passed a whole lot of anti-pornography laws and stuff. And that McCarthyism was very much social conservatism. And it was targeting, social liberalism. Whereas this new Red Scare is dressed in wokeness. Whereas it's conservatives that are critical of it. Conservatives, in a lot of cases, that want to get along with Russia. Now, things have obviously changed as a result of everything that's happened in Gaza recently. But the Red Scare that has gone on more recently has been led by liberals who claim Russia's fascist, who claim that they're the real communists, but all the communist countries are fascist. It looks a little different. But I would say, yes, it's a Red Scare. It's an anti-Russian hysteria, an anti-communist hysteria. The Yuru movement have been indicted, just like the Hollywood 10, just like the Communist Party's National Board in 1948. for the crime of what they said. They're claiming that with their political activism that this makes them Russian agents. Unbelievable. Very, very dangerous case. And, there's, they're banning Russian media and they're, yes, I would say this is an anti-Russian hysteria and an anti-communist hysteria, pro-imperialist hysteria, a crackdown on anti-imperialist voices. Looks a little bit different though. Right? Russia's not a communist country anymore. It's not led by the Communist Party. It has a very socialistic and state-run economy, but its ideology is not Marxist any longer. They are, the Russian Orthodox Church is the state religion, and that the Communist Party is in the government, but it's not the majority party. Right? There's it's a minority party. Right? It doesn't have the majority opinion in the country at this point, and so it's complicated. But it is definitely a pro-imperialist mobilization of the population. It is definitely a crackdown on dissidents. That's what we're living in. The first Red Scare was in 1919. It was right after World War I. They started raiding. It was called the Palmer Raids. They started raiding the homes of various people that were accused of being sympathetic to the Bolsheviks, and they deported people. It was the first Red Scare. And then the second Red Scare, was McCarthyism, the House Un-American Activities Committee, Joe McCarthy. And you could argue that what we're experiencing now is kind of the third Red Scare, even though it's a little different. Politically speaking, it's not straight up anti-communist exactly. It's anti-Russian. It's done in the name of woke progressivism. It's it's anti-imperialism. If you are an anti-imperialist, you get smeared and targeted. It's complicated, but I would argue that yes, this is a similar period that we are living in. So, and that's why it's important that all of us need to be doing everything we can to support the Yuru movement. And the only way this stops is if people just say, screw it. The only way to stop cancel culture is you just have to say, screw it, right? If someone says, oh my God, that person's right wing, you say, screw it. If someone says, oh my God, that person, blah, 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 you say, screw it. You say, I'm going to work with people who want to stop World War III. I'm going to work with people who want to defend our civil liberties. And you just have to just say no to cancel culture, right? And you just have to just say no to it. Just say no, right? And you have to just learn to do that because they will cancel anybody who is anti-imperialist. And people that aren't anti-imperialist magically escape the cancel machine, right? And you have to learn to just say, you know what? I am going to build the biggest united front as possible. I'm going to work with anyone who can be worked with. That's what you got to do. And you got to be brave, right? And look, those guys went to prison because they knew that if they named names, if they got up and answered questions about their political beliefs, it would keep going. So people had the courage to just say no. That's what you've got to do. You got to come to our conference in Oregon, no matter what somebody says about it, no matter what your family might think or your relatives or your neighbors, tell them I believe in CPI, or maybe I don't, but I'm learning about it. And it's not your business. I have my right to my political views, just like you got yours. Right. And if someone says, oh, you can't do that, you just got to stay on the internet and complain. You don't want to be associated with them. You just say, screw you. Right. You got to learn to just say no to cancel culture. It's very important. We've all got to learn to just say no to cancel culture. Just say no to McCarthyism. Anyone who starts with this, well, yeah, but so-and-so is associated with so-and-so. I read on the internet that so-and-so, you just tell them to shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. So-and-so's racist. So-and-so's sexist. I heard that he once shook hands with a homo. Shut up. Just shut up. Right? The crap they pulled against Jeremy Corbyn in Britain. Right? It's just got to stop it. Right? Just got to stop it. Right? People's personal lives are their personal lives. Right? People are going to associate with a lot of different people if they want to change the world and stop the war, etc. They're going to have to associate with controversial individuals. If you want this atmosphere to stop, if you want people to stop being afraid to speak their minds, if you want people to stop being afraid of losing their job because of a tweet, you need to stand up against this. So there you go. If anyone has any more super chats, keep them rolling in. Thoughts on Don Kovalik confronting John Fetterman? That was a great clip, and I am going to show it on here. That was really something special. I watched that. I know Dan Kovalik. I hung out with him in Nicaragua, and I've had him on these streams before. Dan is a great writer, and he's a great friend of the Center for Political Innovation. One of these days, we're going to have him speak at our event. He's a very busy man, traveling a lot, and It doesn't always work out. A lot of times he's been available and then he's had to travel, but one of these days he's going to speak at one of our events. But yeah, I'm going to put that on. Let me just get the clip, and we'll put Dan Kovalik's confronting John Fetterman on here, because it is really, I mean, it's wild to watch, right? You know, and he's standing up for the Palestinians. He's standing up for truth, and he confronts you know, John Fetterman. And yeah, I mean, it's wild. And also, like, I mean, does law not apply? I mean, it was a pretty blatant case of assault. We'll put it on here. We'll put it on here. We'll just put it on here, right? We'll put it on here because it's pretty unbelievable, you know, the response to Dan. You know, I mean, Dan is such a nice guy. He is not threatening in any way. I mean, Dan is like a soft-spoken guy. He's smart. He's very well read and very articulate, but he's not an aggressive guy. He's not violent. He's not, you know, so let's just put the clip on here and I'll show you how, like, the response to Dan asking a question to his U.S. senator. This is the response to an American citizen asking a question to an elected official. It's wild. I mean, it is utterly wild. Utterly wild. Here is Dan Kovalik's confrontation with Dan Fetterman. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. So let me just wait for the video to come up here. Let me just wait for it. Wait for it. Right. Here we go.
Why aren't you supporting a humanitarian ceasefire? You know, I'm with the Gaza team. If you'd like, I can talk to you. No, I can talk to. I voted for him. I'm sorry, this is a democracy. It absolutely is. Yeah, but kind of, sort of. Why? 10,000 people in Gaza have been killed. Half are children. The Pope's calling for a ceasefire. The UN has called for it. I'm just asking you. You're a good guy. I voted for you. I know you're a nice guy. This is important. You need to leave. Here, can I give you a phone? Here. I asked the senator a question. I asked him a question.
He just assaulted him. He just assaulted him. He just assaulted him. He just assaulted him. He was just talking to him. He's assaulted him.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, he's just asking him in a polite voice about maybe you should try to stop the killing of the Palestinians. Maybe you should support the call for a ceasefire, which the Pope supports, which the whole world supports. You know, and this guy just like roughs him up violently. Like, how dare you ask your own elected official a question? You know, and of course, the member of the U.S. legislative body is just dumbfounded, right? That's, you know, I mean, it's like, it doesn't occur to him, like, you know, you'd think if you're a member of Congress, you know, I mean, yeah, pretty wild thing. But Dan is a great guy. And yeah, I mean, it just shows you, I mean, you know, I mean, you can't ask a question to an elected official. People are dying around the clock in Gaza and you can't ask a goddamn question. I mean, what in the world is this? You know, I mean, it's just asking him a question, right? Pretty wild, everybody. All right. Well, I will be back, folks. Unless anyone has any more questions last minute, I will be back tomorrow at noon, scheduling a noon stream. I'll be back. Was supposed to go noon today, but one thing led to another, and I just gotten back from a trip and I was tired, but I'm definitely going at noon tomorrow. You know, maybe we'll open it up tomorrow. I might open the phones tomorrow at noon. So if you want to ask me a question, might do it at noon. We'll see. We'll see how things go. But yeah, I'm going to do another stream tomorrow at noon, probably do another one late at night tomorrow. Oh, here's an important thing before I go, right? Here's an important thing. November 1st, I'm doing a patrons only stream, right? I do those every first of the month. I do a Patreon supporter stream for my Patreon supporters. So if you're part of our Patreon community, by all means, get ready for a stream on November 1st. And if you would like to join our Patreon community and become a supporter of this YouTube channel and the work that we do, now would be a great time to do it, because then you can be on our patrons only stream on Wednesday night. So consider that, right? Sign up on Patreon. If you want to support our work, now would be the time to sign up. You can be on the Patreon stream that we are doing. It's scheduled for pretty soon. It's scheduled. It'll be on the 1st of the month, November 1st. I'll be doing a patrons only stream. So if you want to support this channel and the work that we do, sign up, right? I could use your help. I could use your support. Sign on up. That would be a great thing that you could do to help us out, because it's been a wild month, and we got a whole month of November and our amazing conference coming up in December, and a lot is happening. So much love, comrades. Much love, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow at noon. Tune in, bring questions as always. Yeah. All right. Gonna put on the closing music. In the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today. All righty, everybody. It's been fun.